What is up, people? This one's going to be a nice, short, sweet stream tonight. Not going to be too long at all. Oh, maybe an hour. We'll see. But just let everyone know. So there's no. Oh well, what? Anything short? I guess we're going to go ahead and start this off kind of awkwardly. Didn't expect it. Aaron, thank you, my friend, for the super chats. The 2 super chats telling me to hurry up. Appreciate that. 1 second, I gotta fix something. Alright, much better. There we go. So what's up, Fred? See, you and Aaron have gotten into it already today. Apparently Fred's drunk and he wants to talk shit. Alright, Aaron, I guess for the sake of the situation, I will put that link out there for you. I'll grab that. In the meantime, it's kind of on topic, I guess you could say. As you guys know, I do a lot of researching on atmospheric. I do a lot of researching on weather modification and the geoengineering stuff going on. And I was doing some research and came across. Hang on 1 second, I'm trying to do this. Came across a link from that's a NASA agency, basically, that does a lot of studying of the aerosols in the sky, and basically came across a couple of these documents that kind of you really got to look into. You really got to check it out and make sure what you think you see is exactly what's going on, and vice versa, like that. So I'm gonna kind of show those and let you guys see those right now. Give me 1 second. I'm getting this link out there. All right. All right, there you go, Aaron. There's your link, buddy. All right, so let me see who's here. Don't take any wooden nickels. What's up? What's up, Aaron? What's up, Plain Truth? So I caught a little bit of your stream a little while ago. Driving. What? All right, let me get you guys in here before you guys talk, so let me get everything set up. Here we go.
Audio check.
What's up, Aaron? What's up, channel?
Yep.
Audio check. We good?
Yeah,
You're good. Can you hear me?
We're good. Yes.
I can hear you.
Good.
Sean?
What's up, Aaron? Oh wait, you guys can't hear me. That's the problem. Give me a second.
Hello?
What's up? I know you guys can hear me now, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Just had to readjust my settings. Well, Aaron, I'd like to say first off, thank you.
No worries, man. It's good. We made some money, man. Moving dirt, you know.
Let me see. Keep talking. Fedor keeps saying I have a high-pitched squeal in the background. I know I can't because I heard those speakers that I had to turn down. They're not even here. I don't even have them near the computer. But yeah.
I don't hear it.
Yeah, I don't hear it either. And I'm actually on the watch page listening to it in my ears. I don't even have them near the computer. But yeah, guys. So, what are you guys up to?
Yeah, there is a high pitched.
Really?
Yeah, you have to turn it right up. I can hear it now. Now I'm listening for the pitch. I can hear it. Yeah.
How about? Can you go and check and see if you hear it now?
Yes. There.
I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know why it would do that.
Well, I have to turn you up.
Maybe everyone should turn everything down.
Yeah, I have to turn you up pretty loud for it to be bothersome. It's not really bothersome. It's there.
Oh, okay, I see.
You sound good to me, Sean.
Thank you, Aaron.
What do you want to talk about?
There is the pitch. You timed it pretty well, actually. I was just about to get on the computer and do some work, and notification popped up, so that's pretty good timing. Thank you. Always good to chat with you, Sean.
Yeah, you too, sir. While we're talking, I'm going to go ahead and I think I have an idea of what it could be. I'll try that, but can't guarantee nothing, people. We'll see. But how you guys been doing? What you up to besides drinking, Aaron?
Just handing out the week, man. You know, trying to collect bills, trying to collect money from, you know, jobs I did for like past month. Actually, you might know about that.
Oh yeah.
And today I fixed my trailer, working on the truck. Saturday, you know, just doing shit like that. I'm a one-man show, so I don't have a whole shop like you do.
Why do you assume I do?
Wherever you work, I'm guessing you might have a shop. Or do you work on your own equipment? Do you?
No, well, I only have a skid steer and a trailer now, but I contract myself.
Do you work on it?
Lately, I've been working on for companies that I know.
Yeah, but do you work on it yourself?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Only way to save money.
Okay. Yeah, so you know what I'm doing. You put off shit for a long time because the equipment will run for a long time, but you know, like, God damn it, I need to change the oil on this motherfucker, right? It's the display screen is blinking at you like, oh, 2,500 hour service, right? You know what I mean?
Well, you're supposed to do this, Aaron. Don't.
What?
Don't procrastinate.
What are you talking about? Oh,
you're putting off stuff.
Yeah, because I saw the 1,000 hour service and I didn't do anything.
Oh gosh.
All right, I think.
Anyway, that's what I was doing today, Sean. And then it was like 4 o'clock, dude. The temperature's dropping here in Texas. It actually went down to 90 today, or the high was 90.
It is. Yeah. The heat wave is supposed to be over down there.
Yeah, it's over here. It was only mid-70s today, and it went down to 68. People were just like, "Oh, got to bundle up."
Cool. Where are you at?
I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah. Temperature's dropping. Thank God, dude. It was steamy.
What? Oh, I loved it.
this summer, dude, was bad. I don't know, in Atlanta or here in Texas, Northeast Texas, dude, it was humid. Like, you walk out your door in the morning, like at
Yeah.
6 in the morning, and just
Yep.
start, your clothes are wet, like immediately wet. Like, what the fuck?
In the chat, Fred, I use for a long time I used air. Now have them cemented. But even better than that, I got rid of my skid steer. I use a track steer actually now. What's up, Terry?
Do you make the distinction between skid steer and track steer? You do,
You have to.
Sean?
Have to nowadays.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right.
Because a track steer does slopes and it does a lot more. A lot of the general contractors know it as well.
Dude, 100% more than a fucking wheeled. I call them wheeled steers. You know, just your Bobcat basically with wheels.
Well, that's also the other problem because they're not Bobcats; they're skid steers.
Bobcat I know, but the
brand.
layman term is Bobcat, right? It's a layman.
Yes, that's what most people know it as.
That's what do they call that? It's generic. There's several things like that. Jet ski. Jet ski's not a generic term. That's a Kawasaki brand.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bobcat, and Sean can talk about this more than me probably, but Bobcat was one of the first wheeled.
Right.
What do you call them? Small cage bucket wheeled devices that move
Front
dirt.
end loader.
Like,
it's called a front end
loader.
Little tiny one though, right?
So now they're just all called Bobcats.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. I can't. I did it for years, and it just it feels weird. It's like wearing Nikes and Adidas together in one outfit.
Yeah. I call them skid steers. All.
Right.
I don't care if they have wheels or not. They're all called skid steers. What I call them.
Large earth mover things in the UK are called JCBs. That's the brand, JCB, and anything that size, whatever it is, you just call it JCB.
Yeah, we got JCBs out here.
Yeah, or Caterpillar here, right? Oh, you have JCB here? Okay.
Yeah, JCB's got big machines, tractors, small tractors.
They're generally craning services out here.
Right.
Oh, really? JCB has cranes?
Do they?
They're not the big cranes. They're the forklifts, pettibones, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean not the high-rise cranes.
Yep.
But what you call it? Mainly it's Cat, but the big one now is Komatsu. Komatsu's the big, John Deere and Komatsu are making a run for it right now.
Right.
Which is also a pretty good topic because guess what the new ones are all equipped with now?
Lasers.
GPS.
Yeah.
And GPS, we all know, doesn't work without satellites.
No, Sean.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
First of all, on that machine, you have to load in its position. You have to load it in on
English. Come on, English.
Like a map that was drawn by a programmer. You actually have to take a site map, bring it to a computer programmer on, I don't know what program they use, but they put all the points and data points and elevations on that program, and then you load it in.
They basically upload a
It has nothing to do with satellite, bro. Nothing to do with satellite.
It does.
Pre-programmed.
Exactly. Okay, so it's pre-programmed, like a blueprint is pre-drawn up before the job starts. Correct.
Yep. That's how
okay.
Wait.
But guess what? Okay, go ahead.
Well, does Aaron not believe that there are satellites?
Aaron is what we call a flat Earth apologetic, so he can go either way. He just likes arguing.
Oh, okay, great.
I just like to come on Sean's show. I don't know.
And just naysay. Okay, terrific. That sounds just great.
But if you're on a project and you have a set of blueprints, just like the survey control points, you have to know, or the system program you're using to do the grading has to know where you are at that point, and that's where the GPS comes in.
Yeah, let's call it a grade hop. right? I look at the plans
Mhm.
and I walk out and I set hubs,
Yep.
right? There's no GPS doing that, right?
No. Not the position of where the points need to be. You yourself. So when you're grading, GPS, laser systems, laser receivers, they give it an opportunity so that the grade checker doesn't have to be on in front of you checking every hub. Where
Oh, yeah.
GPS has to know where you are. So it tells you the grade in relation to where you are. So it's not just grade hopping.
Son. No. The elevation profile of that job is downloaded into that machine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
How does that
Yeah.
machine know where you are? How does that machine
Absolutely.
know which hub you're starting on?
Because you
How does it
put out
know?
a receiver. You put out a hub point for it.
Okay, but it doesn't
A
know.
receiver. You could call it a receiver, but it's
But
just
doesn't know
something the
where you
machine
are.
can relate.
How does it know?
It knows. Yes, you do, because that's why you have to
How?
set 3 points when you set up the receiver. You have to set up
What?
3 points.
No, you don't. Yeah, no. You set up two.
Yeah.
The satellite is the
You
third. The
cannot
third
just
point.
run. You cannot just pull out a big old grader out there and put up two. I know you talk about the pole discs on the blade, and say I'm gonna push grade, right? You
It's
can't
all
just
that.
do
Yeah,
that.
exactly what GPS does is give you an accurate indication of where you are in relation to where the hub in grade needs to be.
Mhm.
The same way
Where's
a
the control
surveyor
point?
would use it. Huh?
Where's the control point? That's the question. You're saying
Control
it's
point.
up there. I'm saying it's
Control
down
point
here.
would be wherever central hub you start. Wherever the survey's first start is, that's a control point. All a control
Wherever the
point is.
machine.
So if if a surveyor sets a hub, and I set a 10-foot offset, that
Sure.
becomes my control point.
Yeah, so that's how your machine knows what it has sensors to say where it's at in relation to that control point.
No,
In relation to
no.
that control point.
That'd be like
Yeah.
okay. That'd be like saying I start at hub. If there's 100 hubs in a line, and I start
Mm.
at hub one, you're saying that the program goes hub 100, or let's just say cut 1/10. Point 2, cut 3/10. Point 4 or 3, fill 5. You're saying that it just knows per hub where it's at. The hubs don't have transmitters on them, so how would it know where the hub is or that you're over it?
Yeah, because you have an elevation profile programmed into that machine.
No, it's not
And
programmed into the
you can
machine. It's
deviate
programmed
from
into
that
the.
elevation profile. You have finished grade profile
Uh huh. Yeah.
inputted into that machine, but you can
Uh huh.
also do cuts, right?
Yeah.
Cuts and
But
fill. You can also do that.
what tells that program where you are? So say we have
You
those
do
hubs. Yeah.
in the
Say we have
machine.
those hubs, and we have 100 of them, all 1 through 100. How does it know if we're at 1, or how does it know if we're at 3, or 100 for that
You
matter?
you tell the machine where you're at.
What do you mean you
If
tell it?
you're going to go into full automated mode, saying if you want to go cut finish grade on
Hmm?
a new site, your blade's just going to cut right into the ground and go straight towards right finish grade. You
Well,
know,
no,
you
because
don't do that. We do cut
the
fills.
operator cuts it, and you don't
Well,
cut at
what
one time.
what I'm saying is, yeah, that's why you don't run the program at a new site.
Okay,
You
perfect. I'm happy
cut
you
the
said
site
that
off.
because you do. You actually you can use GPS. This is actually the reason GPS became such a big hit in the construction world, because when you have surveyors, and you obviously know this, but you can clarify, or you can make it clear to everyone how correct I am when I'm finished. Or what's up, Terry? How you doing, sir? What happens is when you get to a site and it's groundbreaking time, with a GPS system on your machine, I can do everything without a surveyor and or a grade checker or even control points. So
Yeah, I know, but
what you're saying isn't correct, because we can do jobs from start to finish without a grade checker on
but
site at all.
do you have to download a program into your machine first?
Yes, you have to download the blueprints basically into the machine, into the
Okay.
GPS
Okay.
system.
The topography blueprints of the job in certain elevation aspects. So
Yeah.
from
Hmm.
first cut to second cut
No,
to third cut.
no, not first cut, second
Yes.
cut. It's to the hub, to the elevation
Oh,
of grade.
Sean, you know this. It's
Okay,
called cut
if
to
we have, yeah, it's called cut and fill. That's balancing a site. It has nothing to do with what the program does.
Well,
When you're
that's what
all
the
you're
topographer
doing is putting in the elevation. So if we're putting street and curb and gutter, you have to add 6 inches to the final grade, which is the subgrade. The GPS system doesn't tell you cut subgrade or cut final grade, then cut your subgrade. It tells you what the elevation of subgrade is. So you have to get to that point. Whether it's 20-foot cut or 10-foot fill, you still have to get to that elevation. It does not tell you in increments of that.
It's programmed into the machine, Sean, right?
Yes,
whatever you do, when you pull those handles and you look at that screen, it's pre-programmed. There's no GPS telling you where you are. The machine has sensors to know where it is, and that's it. And the bucket and your input.
Again,
right?
How does it know where you are in relation to everything? Because if what you're saying is how it is,
why would you need GPS if you're cutting sidewalks?
Okay, listen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, why? What if you have 300 foot of sidewalk?
Huh?
What if you have 300 foot of sidewalk?
Say again. G what?
Said, what if you have 300 feet of sidewalk? Then why wouldn't you want to?
Okay, no worries. Yeah, you just follow the curb.
Well, that's kind of what GPS is for. Large sites where you don't want to have to pound in 1,000 hubs, and basically it tells you where you are in relation to the plans.
I get it. Let's talk about this later privately. Let's move to your show. Right?
This is my show. We're having a discussion about how you're wrong and I'm right.
I mean, what you want to talk about? You didn't want me to rumpus you on dirt work.
At least you went on a rant I could handle, so it was all good.
I can. I can't talk to or speak to anything about that, but I can speak to the fact that if we're really talking about satellites, we've mentioned this before, but we had a minivan and it had GPS. So we'd be in the middle of nowhere, like northern Michigan or somewhere, or Texas somewhere, and we'd have 4 people in the car with phones. And all of the phones would just completely give up. They would just lose satellite and lose cell signal. But the car knew where it was all the time, no matter where we were. The car knew where it was. We were in the boonies, and the car, followed the road. That wouldn't be possible without GPS.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that GPS gives us that either you have to deny being able to do those things, or you have to just ignore the. It doesn't make sense. Have you ever, for instance, Aaron, have you ever used a satellite phone?
Who, me?
Yeah, or anybody on the
Aaron?
panel?
I don't know. I've never used a GPS satellite phone. No.
Well, it's not a GPS; it's a satellite phone. But
I've never used a satellite phone, I guess.
When you use a satellite phone, you basically have to call to a satellite. It's not like a regular cell phone. You're just chilling, calling phone numbers and shit. It doesn't work the same. What are those? Where are they getting their signal from?
Well, you tell me, because you said that it calls a GPS satellite.
Well, a satellite. It calls a satellite, and therefore.
Why couldn't it just be radio telecommunication? Why not? If we can bounce radar, radio, the moon, why can't you do it across the Pacific Ocean? Come on.
Because how are you going to carry a transmitter the size of a brick, basically? Strong enough to transmit a signal.
How big are the reflectors on the moon? The reflectors on the moon are supposed to be like what? I don't know, 3 by 3. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're
Aaron, listen to what Sean's actually asking you.
Thank you.
Don't interrupt.
No, Aaron, he was right. Where are they getting their transmitting and receiving signals from?
from your question, you asked me, have I ever used a satellite phone?
Yes,
Right?
and then I asked.
I said no. I said
Okay, yeah,
no.
I know.
So
But
I
then
was
where would
just
you?
assuming. I was assuming that you're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, which is where you've used one, apparently.
No, I've used one in the middle of the
Is that
forest, but
correct or
okay.
not?
No, it was in the
Am I
middle of the
way off?
forest, up in the mountains.
Or the desert.
Up in the mountains?
Yep.
Jesus, Sean. Okay, have you ever been to the mountains?
Yeah, I do backpacking.
Have you seen those radio towers that are always on top of the mountain? Have you seen those
Really? So
motherfuckers?
you're telling me that there's a radio tower on every mountain?
Absolutely, at the
Okay.
highest point. That's right.
Okay. Please explain to me how the minivan that we had knew where it was. We drove that thing down into Florida, to Texas, to Virginia, to Michigan. We put many, 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 many miles on it, and very often, not very often, but
I don't
you
care
know,
about your minivan. How many miles?
so
Get to the
2
point.
or 3.
Get to the point. Not. I don't care how many seats it has.
I don't care about your
Get to the
objection.
point.
I already made my point. Now tell me why my minivan knew it was and my phones didn't. Thank you.
Repeat the main point there. The end point.
Where?
No.
How did the company know where the van was? How we track things across the United States?
Triangulation.
I asked that question already.
Triangulation. Terrestrial. It's terrestrial
Then why didn't the
triangulation.
phones
What?
know where they were? The car did.
Terrestrial triangulation. You've never heard of that?
Again,
Precisely.
there's a
Precisely.
huge problem with what you're saying, because if the phones don't work, but the GPS tracking does, that would probably mean something. See if you can guess it.
It's a different data stream, actually. Over
Data
the same
stream.
tower.
Over the same tower.
Yeah, cell data is different than, high
Satellite data?
frequency.
What?
Absolutely.
You're joking.
Absolutely.
You're
Well,
claiming
but
that there are two levels. There are two levels. A cell
Let me
tower
ask you guys
emits
a
2
question.
levels of data.
Let me ask you a question, you guys. When you see those towers there for cell data repeaters and all this shit, are there different size microwaves? We'll call them microwave antennas. Are there different size ones on there?
Let me ask you a question.
What is that for? What is that for?
All right, just 1 second. Let me ask you then.
Different signals.
Why are they?
Different signal frequency, direction, exactly, Sean.
Why isn't there anyone in the industry saying that satellites are fake?
I'm not worried about that. You are.
Of course not. Because if that was the case, you'd have many, many people saying, "Wait a minute, there aren't any satellites up there, and here's why."
Why would you say
they
that?
would have technical information.
Why would
They'd
you
have
make that
technical
claim that
information.
there would be many, many people? Like, how do you know that? You don't know that. Just
I do
relax.
know. I do know
we
that.
know
It's
there are
called
whistleblowers everywhere.
It's basic reasoning.
No. How many
No.
people have? How many people are in a satellite right now, Sean? How many people?
What
None.
did you say? How many
There's
people?
nobody
satellite.
in a satellite right
You say
now.
how many people are in a satellite?
In a
ISS,
satellite.
I guess.
It's a satellite.
You could say that, but
But it's
there comes
because
the
it's
contention.
true.
Aaron, you understand that your towers, let's just pretend for a second you're right. You realize that means there'd be billions of towers on every mountaintop. Not billions on each one, but overall. And you realize
Have you looked at the radio map across the United States? The radio map of radio towers, and that's just at one frequency. But like I said, the towers are loaded with different antennas. I mean, just from top to bottom.
What's the range on those antennas,
to get across
Aaron?
the plane? That's it.
That
What's
doesn't
the
explain.
range on those antennas?
That explains nothing.
Okay. So then why do we have those if satellites can take care of everything? Why do we have those towers everywhere?
What is
Because they
the
can't
range
take
of
care
those
of everything.
antennas?
Why do we have those towers if satellites can take care of everything?
Because satellites can't take care of everything.
What do they take care of then?
they take care of something like GPS positioning. They don't take care of things like, we use undersea cables for a lot of the stuff. We have a lot of international communications.
I'd say
right?
the main reason, Aaron, why is because there's a lot of signal loss, loss. And why would you do that if you can just add towers for cells in a small area that wouldn't need a shit ton of power?
What is signal loss, Sean?
What is signal loss? The same thing that happens when you're on a phone and you drive under a bridge.
Okay. All right. I'll say, yeah, that's a loss.
I would like to know why
that's not exactly what happens, but yes, I'll agree with you. When
I would like to know why they fake why they fake satellites. Entire industries building satellites, sending satellites up, servicing satellites, monitoring satellites, communicating with satellites. Tens and thousands of people.
Yeah. There are entire industries building towers on top of the tallest hills we can find. Right?
Okay, and there are entire industries drilling oil and entire industries making phones. Yeah. I'm talking about satellites.
But to this day,
why would they employ all those people
building towers on top of the tallest hill they can find?
Aaron, stop asking questions.
Sean,
answering questions.
Can I ask you?
Statement. It wasn't a question. That was a statement.
Sean, can I ask you a few questions that might help him?
Yes, sir.
Right. So your cellular mobile phone that you use on a day-to-day basis, how much does that cost to make a call? 5-minute telephone call.
I have no idea. I got unlimited.
Yes, right. How much does it cost?
It's unlimited. Hey, listen.
Yes, but let me ask my next question. No, let me ask my next.
It's unlimited because the system is already there.
Aaron, be quiet. You're not the one talking now.
Yeah, you gotta let people talk, man.
Right. So, Sean, how much does it cost you to use a satellite phone?
Oh, shit. Very expensive. I don't remember off the top hand. It was a while ago. But it's expensive, though. It's
exactly. And Aaron, that is the reason why all the communications do not go through satellites.
It's because what? Because it's of the expensive. Cost of Sean's phone?
No, it's expensive.
It's expensive. One satellite costs a lot of money.
It says it cost... estimated are between 45 cents to $2 per minute on a satellite phone. Well, typical rates are
so none of us here use
to
that.
80 cents none of
us here use that satellite service, do we? Right? Because we have unlimited, right?
No,
we have unlimited.
Aaron, because where we live have plenty of cell phone towers in our range. But what about when you get out to the middle of the desert? What about when you get to the middle of the desert?
Satellite phone.
Where there's no tower range. Where there's nowhere for your phone signal to reach.
Do the astronauts use satellite phones?
Okay, so you're asking questions.
I have no idea.
You're asking questions and you're getting questions back.
Now,
think about that, Aaron. Understand what?
In the desert, in the middle of the mountains, where you do not get a signal, is where you use a satellite phone.
I don't know many people that carry one of those.
There are plenty of areas in the world that you need satellite phones for.
Yeah.
Aaron, you keep talking when other people are talking. You need to learn to be quiet.
Sorry, sir. Hey, your volume's low. Turn it up.
No, Aaron, you're just talking over everyone, so stop.
Yeah, don't talk unless you're asked a question, okay? There are plenty of areas in the world that do not have cellular service. All right? That's where you use satellite phones.
Like where? Where's that? Where are these areas?
I don't have
the ocean.
I don't have service. I don't have service in parts of Michigan.
Yeah.
Are you on a satellite service plan or?
No. I just drive through it and get to where I'm going. I've got a repeater in my car to try and pick up cell phone towers at distance. I don't need one, but there are areas that you do need them, and they're worth 45 cents a minute to have. I'm just not in one of those areas. Most people in developed countries are not.
Do you have a satellite phone when you get into a
No.
cell. Oh, you don't.
No,
Okay.
I just told you that I don't. But there are areas where I could use one if I chose to use one, but it's not worth the money to me.
Okay, but normally you like me, you'd run through a dead area and hope to get to another tower. You pick up service and make a call, and then move on. So you're basically using a terrestrial communication service. You're not.
Yes, I'm also right in the middle of North America. But you know how I get to those areas?
You're not proving a satellite service like Sean.
Do you know how I get to those areas? By GPS.
Can I ask you?
Wait.
Can I ask you? Do you really believe there are no satellites?
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh.
That's a yes or a no.
There's only one person in here not saying there are no satellites, and that's you.
Yes, I'm asking you. Wait for it.
I would, Sean. I'm going to troll your channel hard right now.
You haven't already been.
You haven't already been. Yeah, you've been.
I'm gonna say that there is no evidence of what I do in my life with my phone that would require an orbiting satellite.
Okay, that's not the answer. He said, are there satellites or are there not? Do you watch weather reports that have satellite weather on them? You don't even know what you use.
No, what do you mean? Those pictures on the Weather Channel? Is that what you're talking about?
That's
those CGI pictures.
CGI.
Come on, old man.
Okay,
relax.
Okay, yeah, he's trolling.
He's not old. I'm old.
Yeah.
Tell me how old I am.
Sorry, Blue. You're old.
Yeah, you can call me old. You can call me old if you like. That'd be fine.
It'll be okay.
And I really don't think enough about you to bother with what you call me. So you can call me whatever you want too.
Who's this, Bob?
Well, actually, here's the thing. You're on my panel, and I demand you respect these guys because these guys are the reason I have a better understanding of where we live. So I would appreciate it if you treat them with respect.
Sean, I will absolutely respect the older gentleman on your panel. However, I will not be treated like a fucking slapbag. Okay?
Don't act like one then.
Yeah, you kind of. It is a give and take in the conversation, right? It's a give and take.
If you act like one, you'll get treated that way.
Go back and forth.
You're basically saying. You're basically saying.
We'll teach you like
you like the gravity of the trolling world. Like we can treat you as a troll.
So Aaron, what's your one and best proof of the flat Earth that doesn't involve disproving the globe? Give me a single proof for the flat Earth.
One and single proof of the flat Earth.
You only get one.
Yep. Is that when you look off into the distance, Bob? Your distance, my distance, Sean's distance, Blue Marbles. The atmosphere has magnifying effects to it.
And you can give us a citation for that. You can give us a citation to show me that things magnify.
Your math on your channel.
Oh, no, not mine.
Yes,
not mine.
I can.
You show me a citation that says the atmosphere magnifies objects and makes them bigger than they normally would be. Just show me a citation for that, please.
Sure.
Do you have like a YouTube video?
I've been to physics.com. I've been to all those channels, refraction.com.
Go right ahead and show me one that says...
I'm on my phone, Bob. I can't do it right now. I can't.
Of course. Yeah. No. Then you don't get that proof.
I'll concede I can't do it right now.
Okay, so your one and only proof of the flat Earth has been disproven because you can't provide any evidence. Therefore, Earth's not flat. Sorry, you're done.
That's ridiculous, Bob. The atmosphere definitely.
Show me where it doubles something in size. Show me where it doubles something. The atmosphere makes something twice as big as it would normally be if there was not a magnification. Can you show me that?
Bob, I just told you I'm on my phone. Calm down.
Okay, so you have nothing then.
You're getting all excited.
So you have nothing then.
Relax. Just
No.
relax.
Okay, you have nothing
Yeah,
then.
no, he's
Can
got
you
nothing.
show me a ship? Can you show me a ship 50 miles offshore from the beach and zoom it in with a P1000?
There are lots of.
Show me one. Show me one.
Listen,
Show me
on right
one
now. You
picture
just
of
came
a
on
ship.
asking me to do all this shit. I'm
Yeah, I
saying
know.
that
Isn't
I
it
don't
great?
What's up,
I don't
Jose?
discount you.
Hey, Jose.
Back to the prop.
Show me one photograph from the shore of a ship 50 miles at sea with a P1000.
The plain truth.
Show me one ship
What?
50 miles at
Go look at
sea
it.
from the shore with a P1000, but it's got to be
Why
a
is it? Why does it
documented
have to be
50
50 miles?
miles.
No, Bob. No,
No,
come on, Bob. You're a
that's my
science guy. You
on a
should
flat
at least give me some
sphere.
variables here.
Nope.
Now you're fucking pointing out it has to be 50 miles,
Well,
and
it
I
could
have
be
to do
more.
all this stuff when all I'm doing is
It could be
talking
more.
to Sean and telling you that yes, the atmosphere does exhibit magnifying effects. If you
Show me a
can't
ship magnified
say
from
that it
50
doesn't,
miles from shore.
are you saying that it doesn't?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Me too.
Okay, so the
Show
atmosphere
me
does not
a.
exhibit
No, I'm
magnifying
saying that
effects when looking off to the horizon. Are you telling me that, Bob?
it will never double in size. No. And you
Well, then
will not see a
you're
ship
wrong.
50
Well, then
miles
you're
offshore.
totally wrong.
Then show me a citation.
Did you say you went to refraction.com?
Last night on or this
No.
morning on the Plain Truths videos. Go check it out. Listen, I'm on my
No,
phone, so
you
I
provide
cannot
it.
link it to you. Listen, Bob, I can't link it to you, but
Okay.
right there.
All right. If you're
All
on
right.
a mountain 1,000 feet high,
So
what's your drop to the horizon?
Say again, sir.
If you're on a mountain 1,000 feet high, what is your drop to the horizon?
What do you mean drop?
Well,
Angular or what? What do you mean?
all right. What is the
We
angle down on the horizon?
You
Yeah, he
remember the
doesn't know.
argument
He's
we
not
had
going to
a few
answer that.
days ago?
I'm gonna say 3 degrees because that's what Wolfie said.
Really, 3. And how
Everything's
high was
3
Wolfie when it
degrees.
was? How high was Wolfie when it was 3 degrees?
He was about 36,000 feet, 40 feet.
Okay, is that 1,000 feet? What is it at 1,000
Okay.
feet?
Wait, what'd you just say?
Oh, hold on, Bob. At
Okay,
1,000
so
feet,
the horizon
it's
does drop.
0 at sea level. My legs on the feet, my feet on the ground. At sea level,
Are
if
your
I'm
legs on
looking
your
out
feet?
1,000
Aaron,
feet,
are you sure your legs are on your
it's
feet?
I don't know, Sean. I'm just trying to keep up with this scientist here, Bob, the scientist guy.
It's tough, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, it is.
It's tough to
I'm
keep
gonna
up with him.
say that the angle to the horizon is 0.0000.
Make it up.
Wow.
Right,
It's
folks.
great.
I have
did
to,
you come across that?
I have to ask him this though because we had an
Now
interesting
let me go back
conversation
to Bob.
2 days
Let me
ago.
go back to Bob. If I'm at 1,000 feet, you know, up on a 1,000-foot hill, let's say,
Yep.
it's called hills.
Go right
It's
ahead.
gonna be 0.001. That's
Okay.
flat, bro.
Nope.
That's
It's going to
flat.
be zero. It's going to at 1,000 feet. It's going to be
That's not flat.
0.06 degrees.
Yeah.
How did I
Oh
know
my
that?
God! So that's fucking
How
flat.
did I know that?
That's fucking flat. Oh,
No, it isn't.
That's not flat.
No,
dude, that's flat as shit.
that's
That's
almost
not flat.
So
that's over half a degree down.
you're telling me that from your point of view on a globe, it's a 0.06,
Yep.
0.06
At 1,000 feet.
degree drop
Yep.
to my 0.000.
Yes.
So you're telling me from 0.06 to 0.00 is the difference between you and me's argument going it's
Yeah.
flat. Yeah, it's flat
At
or
1,000
globe.
feet, you betcha. Because on a
That's all-
flat Earth, there
that's all it
shouldn't be a
takes.
drop.
1,000 feet
that's
to the
all it takes.
horizon.
That's all it
How
takes.
far? Hey, Bob. How far is my horizon at 1,000 foot? If I'm up
It's going
on
to
a mountain?
be. It's going to be.
About
You ready?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
ready for this,
You
Aaron?
go for it. You
Are
go
you
for it.
taking notes?
I'm writing everything down.
Good. It's going to be 0.6 divided by 360 times 2 times pi. times
How
height.
far is my horizon if I'm standing on a 1,000-foot hill?
Stop talking. Stop talking.
How far is
I'm
my
telling
horizon,
you.
Bob? How
Aaron,
far is
telling
it?
please.
you.
Aaron,
let
please.
him
He's
talk.
giving an explanation. I want to hear the explanation, please, Aaron. Stop
All right.
interrupting me.
It's
It's
going to
annoying.
be 0.6 divided
That
by
was 850, and
360
I'll say
Hey,
times
it.
Aaron,
2
I'm
times
serious.
pi times h times cosine 0.6 divided by 1 minus cosine 0.6
That looks
times
flat to me.
2,400 or 24,901 miles. That's how far your horizon will be.
That
Now
looks
tell me
flat
what
to
that
me.
is. Now
Did
tell
you
me
draw
what
that
that
on a
is.
flat piece of paper? Did you
Yeah, I
draw
sure
that
did.
out, that equation?
You betcha. Yeah, I sure did.
Awesome.
So what just happened right here? Aaron asked a question. Bob, very detailed, explain, give the answer on a equation. Aaron is not paying attention whatsoever.
All
But
right.
because you're not paying attention, Aaron, and you want to just dance around it and say, it looks flat to me. Don't you think that other people want to listen? Hold on, Aaron. I'm almost done, Aaron. Now you want to talk over me when I'm almost done, right? So you're now trying to interrupt me when I'm almost done, right? I'm gonna continue talking. I'm gonna lower my volume because I'm not finished my statement yet, Aaron.
I know.
Please
I thought
respect,
I
brother.
was talking to
Aaron,
Bob.
So
stop.
the thing is,
I was talking to Bob, not
so
you.
the thing is, when and I'm making a statement, and you should let other people speak to Aaron, please. All right. So because you don't care the answer to the question that you just asked, and Bob was giving you an answer, you think anybody else care, right? Yes, people care. I couldn't understand shit what Bob said, but he gave an answer. So what can I do? I can review this back and I can write all this down and try to find citations and cross-reference to see if it's right what he said. And you should pay more attention to the answers of the question that you asked, Aaron, because you're getting the answers. You just refuse to listen to them. Thank you very much.
Hey,
That's my participation today.
hey, Blue, you got your calculator handy?
Yeah, somewhere.
All right. If you wouldn't mind, why don't you pull out the calculator? We'll go through that again, and then we'll compare it to the Earth curve calculator and see whether or not we come up with the correct answer.
Just while you're doing that, could I ask Aaron a question?
Oh, please. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know the actual answer, it's going to be 0.6 divided by 360.
Which
times,
means it's flat. Yeah.
No, it's going to be 0.6 divided by 360 times 24,901 miles will be the distance to the horizon. Now, Blue, you can go ahead and punch that into a calculator, and then we can compare it to the Earth curve calculator and see what that says the horizon's going to be, and let's see how far I'm off.
Pretty
considering I'm sitting here doing it in my head.
You 0.6
divided by 360
divided by 360
times 24,901.
And let's see, that is 4150.
Great. Now go ahead and put that in the Earth curve calculator and see what it is from 1,000-foot elevation. Tell me what the horizon's going to be.
All right. So while Big Blue's doing that, Aaron, 2 or 3 days ago, you were telling us that the horizon at sea level was 3 degrees, and you argued with this fact with us for over an hour and a half, even when you were presented with the information to say you were wrong. So why have you changed your figure so drastically today?
Because your figures have drastically changed to this day. If Bob's telling me right now that when I'm standing on a 1,000-foot hill and I look off to the horizon and it drops 0.8 degrees, he won't tell me the distance.
Pay attention.
Yeah. He won't tell me the distance though. What I'm supposed to see.
I gave you the distance.
How far?
0.6 divided by 360 times 24,901.
Tell me the fucking distance, Bob. Don't be a fucking schmuck. Do it.
Blue just gave you the number.
Blue, what was it?
It was 41 miles, something like that?
Yeah, 41 and a half.
41 miles. I'm looking off into the distance, and
at 1,000 feet, yep.
Yeah, at 1,000 feet, and you say it drops 0.6 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're discounting the fact of refraction and at the ether band, everything.
There's no such thing as no. I'm not going to.
Okay, refraction, atmosphere. So you don't know that the water doesn't go up to 50 miles. Right?
Now, if you want to use refraction, we could probably take that 41.5 miles, multiply it by 7, divide it by 6, and get a better answer right there.
Yeah, I'm sure you could to
So
match your orthographic view of the ball, but
and
not
an
your
orthographic
visual
view is fine.
line of sight. Not the line
That
of
is
sight.
a line of sight. Do you know the difference between an orthographic view and a line of sight? You don't, do you?
No, what? Say again? I wasn't listening. Sorry.
You tell me what the difference between an orthographic view and a line of sight is.
Absolutely. The orthographic view is an XY view. Line of sight is definitely X only.
X only. Which direction's X?
Your line of sight.
That's Z.
No, I'm not looking up. I'm out. Horizontal. Sorry.
And that's
horizontal.
generally considered the Z-axis. You didn't know that, did you?
Z-axis is up. No.
X is left to right. Y is up and down. Z is front to back.
Oh. Okay.
That's the convention.
Physics.com
you don't know that, though,
told
do
me
you?
differently. Sorry about that. Sorry. Hey, Physics.com told me differently. Sorry about that.
Citation, please.
Physics.com.
And how do you know Physics.com is correct? Did you do it yourself?
It's just
Did you personally do it?
It's a reputable website, Bob. Come on.
Oh, so it's an appeal to authority fallacy then, right?
If you're going to question me on what direction is X, Y, Z, yes. Yeah.
It's an appeal to authority. You haven't determined that yourself, have you?
If you're going to question me on X, Y, Z, yes.
Okay, so you're using a map. Is that a reification fallacy then? You know, the map's not the ground.
I'm not using a map. I never said map.
Okay, so you're using some sort of a model, though. The model isn't reality, is it?
No. I'm asking you if I'm standing on a 1,000-foot hill.
And I've given you an answer.
How far away is that horizon? You
41.5 miles,
40,
and if you include refraction, it's 7.
And it's only 0.06 degree drop.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, are you accounting for refraction, atmosphere?
I told you how to do that. You multiply
everything
it by 7,
involved
divide it by
in
6.
that distance. How can you account for the distance that you're looking through for this refraction? That you're going to say that 0.06 is actually where your pinpoint is lining up on that horizon. You can't do it, Bob.
How'd I do, Blue?
Because that horizon does not exist. It's not actually real.
Okay,
You're just using maps.
Okay,
You're using maps.
Really? How's a sextant work? Yeah, don't you need a horizon to use a sextant? Does a sextant work, Aaron? Do you know how to use a sextant? Does it use the horizon as one of its points?
That doesn't prove that the horizon is a concrete.
Yet we can use it to measure something. If we can use it to measure something, is it not something in itself? Isn't it a real point?
Are sextants, absolute points? Like you can absolutely pinpoint something with a sextant?
The horizon, yeah, it's required to use a sextant.
Hey, Bob, no.
By the way,
general.
Physics.com lists about 9 quotes that are vaguely physics related, tangentially, and then it has an ad for Amazon. That's it.
Thanks, Shills. Dick.
All right. Hey, Blue, you didn't by chance get that number, did you?
Yeah, I looked at the, let's see, at the Earth curve calculator.
Was I close enough for just doing it right off the top of my head?
Off the top of your head, I'd say you came pretty close.
Anything, Bob, you smug.
The Earth curve calculator comes up with 39 miles.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you think you guys can see 39 miles through the atmosphere to pinpoint a spot
to
take a calculation from?
Did my
You
sentence
think you can
interrupt your
see
thought there or
39
something?
miles? Gee whiz, you guys!
Yeah.
You guys are wizards.
I'm sorry that the middle of my sentence interrupted the start of your sentence.
Sorry, Blue. Sorry,
That's
Blue.
awesome. That's an awesome comeback.
It's about 39 miles without refraction. With refraction, it's about 42 and a half, according to the Earth curve calculator.
And
Okay.
my estimate was what?
What's your value?
40,
What's your value
41 and
for
a half.
refraction?
All right, now is that not pretty good for right off the top of my head, Aaron? From a horizontal drop? Do I not know what I'm talking about?
No, you don't know what you're talking about, Bob.
Huh. Of course. Citation plane.
Other than
what?
physics.com.
Am I simply saying, I didn't claim physics.com, but the fact that you can crunch numbers doesn't prove what you're trying to prove.
It proves that I know how far the fucking horizon is, asshole.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Excuse me, Bob. Let's try to tone it down. Let's try to tone it down there a little bit, Bobby. Okay.
Oh, piss off, plane.
Hey.
How did I come in hot, Sean? All I said was.
What's the error on 39 versus 41 and a half miles? How much of an error is that, plane?
I don't care.
Calculate it in your head.
I don't care, Bob. That doesn't prove anything.
Calculate the error.
Can you calculate the error? No, Bob, and I don't care. The fact that you are throwing numbers and the fact that you say that you can crunch numbers in your head and memorize sine waves and sine sigma theta alpha over 7/6R, those are simply equations, okay? The fact that Aaron brought up is something that
that describe reality and allow me to predict reality from something you tossed out of your ass.
They plane.
You can't. Hold on, Big Blue. Hold on. You can crunch those numbers, but those numbers have to dance with real atmospheric effects, which you don't account for. No, they don't.
Read it right off the curve. Yeah.
7/6R. 7/6R is a number. It does not reflect the atmosphere on that day as you are looking out over the horizon.
You really are obtuse, aren't you, Blaine?
No, I'm not, Bob. No, I'm not.
What is obtuse?
It's required.
It's a wide angle, Bob. Obtuse
Correct.
is a wide angle.
All right. It means you're not focused.
I'm focused, Bob. I'm telling you exactly what I mean to tell you.
What's the error rate on 39 versus 41 and a half?
Shit. I don't give a shit about your numbers, Bob.
Well,
Okay.
You don't give a shit about the numbers, Travis. How do you decide that he's wrong?
It's a simple arithmetic, Lane. I think we'd all feel better if you would just demonstrate to us that you know how to calculate the error percentage. Could you do that for us? It's not very hard.
I don't need to. I'm not making any predictions. I'm not.
Do you know the difference between a sine and a cosine, Aaron?
No.
What's the difference between a sine and a cosine?
This is irrelevant. The fact that you're throwing numbers.
Tell me what a cosecant is, Aaron.
I don't care, Bob.
Tell me what a cosecant is.
By the way,
oh, man.
90 degrees.
A smug, intellectual snob.
Stop muting me, Sean, or I'll quit donating to you.
I didn't. It's been a while since I muted you, Aaron.
Aaron, he actually told you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, that was a while ago, too.
Hey, Travis.
Hey, Bob.
So what is your best proof of the flat Earth that doesn't involve ruling out a globe? What's your one proof?
The ether band?
Yeah, what's your
you
best
guys are
proof?
funny.
What's your best evidence?
I'm enjoying this.
What's your best evidence, Travis, for a flat Earth? You only get one, and I'll need citations.
I don't have to dance your dance, Bob. I don't have to give you citations.
No, you think we have to dance yours, though, don't you?
Yeah.
No, okay. You show me where I've demanded you to dance my dance.
No, I want your one. We want your one proof.
Yeah,
we want your one proof, Travis.
And assume we are allowed to. You just act like we're supposed to just take Etherband as a term and run with it and know it's right.
No,
What's your one
I
best
expect
proof,
you.
Travis? Do you
Hold
have
on,
any
Bob.
proof for a flat
I was
Earth?
just talking with Sean there, Bob. Just hold on, Bob. Okay.
Sean wants to know your best proof too.
Sean, he just brought up something that, he just brought up something else though that I would like to address. Sean, the fact that I bring into the discussion a term that I'm using to describe what I'm seeing is part of
that you made up to describe what you're seeing.
It doesn't matter. You guys had no problem with Rumpus creating super looming, okay?
I did.
Okay.
Because only because I know everyone will take it for not what it's meant to be.
Okay. I'm here for a discussion, and I have discussed at length what I mean by my terms. It's a discussion.
Okay, but
all right, discuss then. Does the horizon drop from eye level?
One thing about your term there, Travis, is that your term doesn't describe anything. It's just your way of saying the atmosphere and its effects.
I mean, we could actually just call it.
It's visual. It's visual.
We could call it Riksplecken. You know,
it's a visual description.
Call it
something
what it really
you can't
is.
put on paper.
Fucking word salad. That's what it really is.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, I got a question for you, Aaron. I got a question for you, Aaron.
Yes, sir, Bob.
Now, if your eyes are 6 feet off the ground,
intellectual snob, Bob.
If your eyes are 6 feet off of the ground and you can make out 1 minute of angular resolution, how far away would me at 6'2" have to be before you couldn't see the top from the bottom of me?
Depends on the
what is 1 minute of angle?
Depends on the atmosphere, Bob.
How far would it be before I shrunk to 1 minute of angle?
It depends on the atmosphere, Bob.
No, that is an actual number. How far would I have to be before I was 1 minute of angle? What is 1 minute of angle?
Ready, Travis?
What is 1 minute of angle,
It depends on the atmosphere, Bob.
Forget the atmosphere.
1 minute of angle is a number.
Just give him a number.
How far
Bob,
is
we've already addressed
1 minute of angle?
This doesn't matter, Bob.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't.
I want to see whether or not you can compute 1 minute of angle being 6 feet, how far it would be.
I don't
he
have
can't,
to
Bob. That's why he's dodging it.
I don't have to.
I know.
Bob.
He doesn't have the math to do that, does
he's
he?
not able to do that.
What is 1 minute of angle?
That means I'm not right.
What is 1 minute of angle, Travis?
1 minute of angle is 1/60th of a 60 whole percent of
1/60th of a 30/60th of a 30/60th degree of a degree of a sine of a tangent. Oh my god!
Please.
And then you have to add x, Travis. Don't forget the x. You gotta add.
And the
x.
house of cards collapses.
I'm sorry. This is comedy gold.
Collect your thoughts, Travis.
I'm enjoying this.
Collect your thoughts, Travis. What is 1 minute of angle?
60 seconds.
How much of a circle?
60 seconds.
What percentage of a circle is it?
It's 360.
It's 360 divided by 60 divided by 60. Go for it.
Nope, wrong. That's 1 second
wrong.
of angle, you fucking moron.
Travis, zing, zing.
Yeah, he
Aaron
got
was
us,
wrong.
Aaron. He got us.
I'm just talking to make the scene reading by popping in my avatar sometimes.
I'm
That's all
so
I'm doing.
bad.
Every time I speak, my avatar pop in. I just make it good.
Jose wants to speak up. Jose,
Stop. Everyone
Jose,
stop.
Jose,
No,
Jose,
Aaron,
Jose,
stop.
Jose.
When I say stop, that means stop, Aaron. Guys, there's too many people talking. Sounds like chaos. And it just doesn't sound good at all. So let's stop. Let's start over.
Just want you to know
Jose.
that Bob's the only one that's lost his shit.
Travis.
Travis and Aaron, it's a little silly. Listen to yourself. The both of you and Bob, the three of you, it's kind of a little back and forth, little shouting and making fun. It's silly, for real. And I just wanted to talk just to show my avatar, so you pop in and make it look prettier, and you got like, relax a little bit. So carry on.
You know those shirts girls wear with the that don't go over the shoulders at all? Just kind of like over the top of the breast. You have that tan line in your avatar.
Oh yeah, who knows, right, man?
You're right.
Wow.
I can see the bra straps on that.
He's got a couple globes on his chest.
Telling us there, Jose?
Okay, Aaron or Travis.
Oh, Bob.
Well, if you let an object go, does it have to have a force act on it in order for it to fall? And how does it determine the direction?
No, Bob, it doesn't.
Okay, so how does it know to fall?
It doesn't know anything, Bob. It's inanimate.
Okay, so how does it know what direction to fall? How does it fall in the same direction?
It doesn't know anything, Bob. It's inanimate. You're so silly.
Travis, I have a good question for Bob here. Which direction is the vector of gravity?
Well, let's see. The positive vector is upward, and things fall downward.
So when I'm doing a pull-up, which direction is the vector of gravity?
The hell? Same.
What do you mean a pull-up? What does you doing a pull-up have to do with the direction of gravity?
Well, isn't gravity what's resisting me from doing the pull-up?
Yeah. Which direction is the acceleration when the car moves forward? And which direction do you...
I'm not in a car doing
And what direction do you get pushed back into your seat?
Okay, so let's say, Bob, let's go real simple. Let's go back. Step back.
Yeah.
I drop a water bottle.
Yes.
I drop a water bottle. Which direction is the vector of gravity?
The acceleration of the water bottle is 0.
And which direction is the vector of gravity?
It would be going. The positive direction would be up. Okay. And the negative would be down.
So when I grab onto this bar up here and I do a pull-up.
Very good.
Which direction is the vector of gravity, Bob?
Same as it was before you did the pull-up. Up is positive and down is negative.
What do you mean same as I had to jump up to grab this bar?
Yeah, but you didn't do anything with gravity with that. You did something, you accelerated your body with that.
Wow. Okay.
Which direction did you accelerate your body? Up.
Please explain to me, because I also have a water bottle in my pocket, and when I did the pull-up, this water bottle fell out.
Yeah.
And it went down. So which direction is the vector of gravity as I'm doing this pull-up and the water bottle went down? Come on, Bob.
You dropped
gravity hasn't changed, Aaron.
With gravity. You don't understand that, do you?
Did you drop the
Oh, it has nothing to do with gravity. Nothing. Okay.
Correct.
It has everything to do with your...
So why do you ask about gravity then?
It hanging out of your pocket.
And what does your action have to do with the vector of gravity?
And to clarify, Aaron, to clarify, the water bottle does not force that water bottle out of your pocket to fall. That's why it doesn't have anything to do with it.
Sean, it fell out. I'm just saying it fell out.
Okay, so what happens? What is the acceleration acting on the water bottle as it's falling?
Sean, when I did the pull-up, I went up, and I was resisting some force. I was resisting some force, but the bottle also went down.
What's the acceleration acting on the water bottle as it falls?
There's no acceleration acting on the water bottle, Bob.
Correct. Because it's falling.
What about me when I'm pulling up?
Do bubbles rise in the water as it falls?
What about me when I'm pulling up, Bob?
What about you? Well, if you're pulling up, you're pulling up. That's the vector. You're accelerating because you're going upward.
You pull out though.
So it's just an acceleration. It's not I'm not resisting a force.
No, you're not resisting the force.
No, you're not.
I thought gravity wasn't a force.
Yeah, gravity's not a force. It's bending of space-time.
So let me get
the current science, right?
It's a force. Damn it.
But you can think of it as a force.
No, I'd think of it as a force for sure.
All right, so if you drop that water bottle, will bubbles rise in it?
Don't miss the poignancy of Aaron's question to you, Bob. You're sidestepping it.
Poignancy?
Poignancy? Did you look that word up today?
No, I forgot to, Bob. I forgot. You got me. You got me,
Go look
Bobby.
it up. Go look it up, and then you'll use it correctly.
Okay. Thanks for making a poignant point there, Bob.
That was.
What else?
He's going with the Nathan Thompson approach.
Travis,
This is great fun.
Travis, let's keep it dumb for them.
Bob, keep it up. Keep it up.
So when I drop a water bottle, the vector of gravity is up because the Earth is moving up. Correct,
What
Bob?
the fuck did you just say?
That's the direction
Bob?
of the acceleration, yeah.
Yep. So the direction of the acceleration, when I drop a water bottle from my hands at 3 foot, the acceleration is up. So when
Of
I
gravity.
So when I do a pull-up,
Yes.
what direction is the vector?
Well, gravity doesn't change. You're adding an acceleration upward because you're moving upward.
Oh, that's why it's so hard to do a pull-up, right?
No, it's so hard to do a pull-up because you're just a little marshmallow piece of shit. That's why it's hard for you to do a pull-up.
There goes Bob. There goes Bob calling names again.
Thank
Bobby
you, Travis.
calling
Travis,
names.
thank you. Thank you, Travis.
I'd really like for everybody to get away from.
It's okay, Sean. It's okay.
No, it goes both ways. I want everyone to stop because it's
It
childish.
doesn't go both ways. I haven't cussed at all.
Dude, I was talking to Bob. You can relax. Damn. You can have your little rage quit session in a little bit. Relax.
And it's not a matter of cussing. It's a matter of just everybody's being disrespectful to everybody else. And it's not necessary to get your point across.
We're getting away from the topic at hand or the conversation, so be it. But I get why it's happening. But it's just not necessary. Let's kind of go back to where I was at.
Let's do it.
Let's see if I can find it now. Because what I wanted to talk about was basically the geoengineering stuff that was going on. I know it's not everyone's favorite topic at hand, but it kind of goes along with how like NASA is involved in this flat Earth discussion of being liars. There are reasons why. For instance, a lot of the geoengineering projects they've done or studies are under the guides of studies for a reason, because otherwise under different treaties are illegal. Excuse me. But I came across a website. Get to it, then I'll share it with you guys so you guys can see it. I gotta get it on my computer first. There we go. And I'll share it now. So this is the agency that does this stuff, but basically their job, all they do is basically do flights and field experiments on the atmosphere and the aerosols in it, along with. Let me see if I can find it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There was a test they did in 2006. Which one was it? Oh, that's why it's on the other one. Which one? I think this one. Yeah, we'll look at this one for right now.
Sean, I've had enough fun with these fourths. I need to get going. I got some stuff to do tonight.
All right, sure. Sir, I do appreciate it. And
take care, man.
And respect and kudos to those past few uploads.
Yes,
really good ones. Really good ones.
Well, I've got a design that I'm putting out right now. I'm just doing a video on a design for a water level that I have that you guys can build if you want.
Awesome. Sounds fun.
What's the temperature?
Wait till Mr. Bob.
What type of water do we have to use?
And
do we have to use it in a vacuum?
I use Windex, actually. It's not even water.
It has to be level.
Would that be a Hoover or a Dyson?
Can you get level water from Bunnings down the road here?
Flat water only. Flat water.
You know, the only way to really get it done right is you have to use halogen blinker fluid.
Oh man, that's so hard to find.
No, you just order it off of Amazon. You can get it there.
It's right next to the muffler bearings aisle.
Yeah, my high-speed wobbly bar went out yesterday.
Yeah,
it needs to be half wire, half ether band.
Where do you get the thingamajigs?
Muffler bearings.
They're right next to the YMX funnel.
Yeah, right next to the whatchamacallits.
Yeah, the muffler bearings are right next to the caniculator valves.
Oh, and you can find that in the flat Earth evidence aisle.
I think they got a sale on at the moment.
Just ask for dihydrogen oxide. It'll work.
I am using that in the video.
Make sure
I'm using the muffler bearings and the flat Earth evidence aisle in the video.
Make sure it doesn't have a sticker that says "not for educational purposes," though.
And use the wire mesh funnel for the water to filter it.
That's funny. That was good.
All right, you guys take care of it.
I expect appropriate credit for that too, Bob. Goddammit.
I have a question.
Sean made me spit.
I have a question for Blue Marble and Bob the Science Guy, if he's still there.
All right. I'll be here long enough to answer, but we're going to let Blue Marble answer first.
Okay, you gave me a set of parameters, standing on a 1,000-foot hill and, looking to the horizon. I'm going to give you a set of parameters. Let's say I'm standing on a 1,000-foot hill and the Earth was flat. What degree would I have to look at to see the horizon? If it was flat. Okay.
If it was flat, well, let's see.
I'm going to say right.
It would be.
Yeah, it would play a factor. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be 1 minute of angle equals 1,000 feet. Yeah, it'd be 1 minute of angle.
Well, I mean, on a flat Earth, though.
Yep. Because that's when you'd lose. That's when you would lose the ability to discern things. So let's see, 1 minute of angle at 1,000 feet.
What do you mean discern?
The resolution.
You wouldn't be able to resolve it anymore, and actually, it would also have to do with the.
You mean to the horizon? You mean?
Yeah, it would have to do with the frequency of the light too, because certain colors you could see a little further than other colors. So the horizon would actually be spread out over a period of probably a number of miles.
Oh wow!
And,
kind of like
a minute of angle.
Kind of like what we call the ether band, kind of.
No,
like
there's
that.
no such thing as an
No,
ether band.
I call it the Ricksplecken.
And you can find
the
that in Flat Earth
Travosphere.
aisle.
Flat Earth evidence aisle.
I call it the flat Earth fault line.
So Bob,
Yes.
if I was standing on a 1,000-foot hill and I was looking out over a flat plain,
Jump and do a flip.
what angle would I have to look down to or to the horizon due to perspective if you're calculating that? It
would be a direct eye level less 1/60th of a degree.
Okay, so about 0.006 degrees, right?
Okay, is that 1/60th of a degree? What's a degree divided by 60? What's 1 divided by 60?
Thursday.
60 over 1.
60 over 1 is 60, asshole.
Okay. Stop
It would be 1 over 60.
I didn't call you an a-hole. Stop it.
Well, no, you just gave a stupid answer which insulted my intelligence. All right? Do 1 over 60. Tell me what that is.
I would like to know your math. If I was standing on a 1,000-foot hill and looked over a flat plane, what angle would I have to look down?
I just told you, 1/60th of a degree.
Okay, so what's the number? Because you told me the number on the globe.
About 0.016. Blue, you got your calculator handy?
Yeah, I do, but I'm going to have to go here pretty quick. What?
I'm just on the phone.
What's 1 divided by 60? Is it 0.016?
How do you know that?
0.0166, yeah.
At what's
I'm sorry,
your distance?
it's between 0. I just told you.
Hold on, what's your distance you're looking at?
I already answered the question, so I'll see you later, man. Thanks for playing. Stay in school, Aaron.
Yes, one rarely sees thamajigness of a high degree in our contemporary sociological abandonment of free-form doohickiness.
Chills.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll write that down.
Chills. Bobby never gave me the distance he was actually calculating at.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What? Distance doesn't matter.
Actually, the angle. Once you do the measurements for the angle, you.
Well, how do you get an angle without a distance?
You get the angle first.
And hypotenuse. How do you do that?
Why would you need the distance for the angle if you can measure the angle of the reference? The reference is the local level.
Local. The angle is local to the level. What?
You said you need a distance for the angle?
I want to know what Bob's calculation was for my. I'm standing on a 1,000-foot hill
Why do you
at
keep
a
calling it a hill?
41-mile distance.
Dude, bro, at
41-mile
1,000 feet, a
distance.
hill is no longer a hill.
Yeah. What is the drop that I should experience? What is the drop? And he couldn't answer. He could not answer.
Because he doesn't live on a flat Earth. We don't live on a flat Earth to make that observation is a problem.
I know, but he should be able to calculate it, right?
And calculate the impossible.
Somebody here should be able. Blue Marble, he's here. He should be able to calculate it.
We'll leave it here long. I got something else I got to go do, guys. But what do you want, Aaron?
Everybody's got to run out when
you want the angle for a 1,000-foot drop over 41 miles. Is that what you want? Is that what you're asking? 41 miles.
I would love to know what Aaron will do with the answer of this equation and seeing the problem solved.
On a flat Earth, right? Because you're doing triangular math, right?
Yeah, we call that trigonometry where I'm from.
That sounds good, Chills. I love that. That's a great.
I got 2 questions. I cannot let it go, Aaron. Aaron, you and me, 1 minute. If somebody dedicate 2 or 3 minutes to do this equation on screen, they share the screen and they show you all these mathematical numbers, and you try to ask a lot of questions in between, and they get to the bottom of giving you the whole equation. What will you do with that information after that? That's my question. Can you answer that?
Well, yes, I definitely take it in the variables of where the points of their equation came from, right? Because Jose, we're talking about calculus.
Yeah, but you haven't answered this equation. What will you do with the information when it's given to you of this equation? If somebody want to give it to you, what would you do with it?
Where they're calculating where they're getting their, how are they deriving their?
That's not what he's asking.
How will you use this information? Will you talk to somebody else? Will you re-ask the question? Will you start teaching other people, hey, this is how you do this calculation?
I will research
I have this doubt. I learned now.
Jose, I will research it myself.
How will you research it? What will you do with the information given to you in the moment? Will you appreciate it? Will you thank the person?
In the moment, Jose, I can't do anything. I'm on my phone.
But wouldn't you appreciate the person and thank them? Like, hey, thank you for taking the time to do this. I will look it up. Would you do that?
No, not when they call me an
No. So you're asking for something, right? Somebody to put a hard work, and you're not even going to thank them at the end if they decide to do it. No, I'm being honest.
You need to calm down. Jose,
I'm being honest. Listen, no, you are. You need to calm down, bro.
Just a little bit. Bob the Science Guy called me an asshole and a little boy and
Yeah, but we're not talking about that. I asked you this really direct question, bro. I wasn't involved in that, Aaron. I don't care about what happened. You see how you are, Aaron. Please take a step down, Aaron. Please relax, brother. But relax, Aaron. Listen to me. I don't want to talk about what went down 5 minutes ago with Bob. I asked you something, like really specific something. So you're not going to give me the answer?
You were not there. I was there.
My advice, what I really want to know, Aaron. All right, so let me do this last point. 30 more seconds, Aaron.
I was the one talking to them. Yes, I was.
30 seconds, Aaron. All right. So listen to me now. Now, what I ask you, if you are giving this information, no, go, Aaron. Let me talk, bro. Let me say it out.
You don't need to listen, but you need to stop talking.
Yeah, Aaron, please. All right, so if you're giving this information, I ask you, will you thank the person? Because anybody doing a job for anybody, the least you can do is thank the person hearing if you disagree or you think it's wrong. Will you thank the person? That's all I need to know. I'll mute myself. Will you appreciate that, Aaron, or not? Go ahead, Aaron, please.
I thought you were going to mute.
Yes. Will you appreciate the person if they give you the equation that you're asking for?
Let me see you mute.
Aaron, stop.
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you. Just as I thought. You're going to ask for all these things, Aaron, and you are giving all the answers. Somebody's going to put a lot of work and effort to give you the answers, but you're just going to totally ignore it, Aaron. It's not fair, bro. You don't even thank the person for doing it.
Are you done? I absolutely respect Bob the Science Guy, Blue Marble,
me,
John Watson, Sean G, you, Jose. Absolutely respect.
Me too.
Try not to overtalk. But
No.
when they're presenting me with numbers, just numbers to answer a question that I asked, saying, how far away is that horizon? And they go, it's 41.2.
Yeah.
How do you know that? You don't know that. You're using triangular mass on your fucking globe, on your globe.
Then why the fuck are you trying to
Can't
have us
do
answer
that.
Question so
You
adamantly.
cannot do that.
Well, actually, you can.
Actually,
but I don't
Aaron-
have time to talk about it, so I'll try to catch you guys later. I gotta
Oh,
go.
hey, Blue.
Have a good one,
Blue.
Yeah.
Did Gladys arrive?
Yeah, I got Gladys. Looks good.
All right. Cool. All right.
Oh,
Catch you later.
All right.
Have a good one.
Later, Blue.
Later, Blue. Thanks for showing up.
War Eagle.
Go local sports team.
And by the way, Aaron, I posted inside chat the answer to 15 significant digits.
I know, but it makes no difference. Like Travis
Then
said.
why did you ask?
Why ask for it? Exactly.
Well, because you can,
see,
well,
let me
because I
take
could
a
use
guess.
that same exact number to prove a flat plane.
No, let me take a guess, Aaron. I'd really like to take a guess at why you asked. You asked to annoy us. You asked us to burn up time. You asked us to grandstand. You asked us for any number of reasons except the fact that you're actually curious about the answer.
Or to have a good show.
No, that's not it.
Yeah, definitely not.
Hey, Jose, respect, man. I don't mind you yelling at me, but the point is, I respect you. I respect Sean. I respect all these people. I've never called names to them. Never done that. All I do is ask questions, but I get the opposite retort. I get name called. I get fucking verbally
That's mainly
abused.
because you literally talk over everyone to frustration. You gish gallop to frustration. You refuse to answer any questions to frustrate. Those are just me.
And Aaron, would you like me to post some screenshots of some emails where one person was very respectful and the other one was acting like a little asshole?
And I didn't yell at any moment. I was raising my voice a little bit so you can hear me, so you can hear over your own voice that I was talking like, hey, dude, I'm talking, and you kept going and going. That's why I raised my voice. So
I know
you gotta
Jose.
chill out,
Yeah,
bro.
you were raising your voice. I understand that. I was getting a little bit
He's Puerto Rican. He can't help it.
voice too, but no big deal. It's not a big deal, right? Now, Jose, do you?
That was racist, Carlo.
No, I'm Hispanic. I can't be racist.
Jose, do you want to have a chat?
Hey, Aaron, can I ask you
already,
a
what I wanted to know is if you were going to appreciate the information given to you, because I never hear you saying thank you for answering my question, and thank you. I appreciate the information. I will look into it. That's all I wanted to know.
Why would I have to say I appreciate the information? I don't have to say thank you, guys. Oh my God, thank you, Bob the Science Guy. Right? We don't have to do that. We're not fucking pussies. We're not babies.
I mean, that's you. Don't say we, because you don't represent me and I don't represent you. Don't say we.
So
I'm
then
not the same as
I
you
have
are,
to
bro.
say thank you to fucking Bob the Science Guy.
Please
right?
don't say we. Don't say we, because I'm not
Well,
included there, right?
Then
No,
you don't say that.
Aaron, you don't have to say thank you. You just have to be respectful and not disrespectful while it's
I already said I respect Bob the Science Guy for everything that he does. I'm a subscriber to his channel, for Christ's sake.
You want. You do not. You show different.
I'm a subscriber to Bob the Science Guy's channel. Are you kidding me?
I'm a subscriber to Nathan Oakley. You think I like him? You think I respect him?
Well, I don't know, but I
don't
watch
at all.
every
Not even a little bit.
video that Bob puts out. I actually watch every video, right? I'm not disrespectful to Bob, but when he comes on here and calls me kid and fucking, just sorry.
Are you just butthurt because he called you an a-hole?
Yeah, a-hole, all the shit.
You
It's no big deal. And then when he asks me a question, I ask him a question back. He's the scientist, not me. I ask him a question back. He's the scientist, not me.
It was stated too. It was acknowledged that you both need to stop.
Hello. So we're sitting in class. And Bob's our teacher. and Bob asks the students a fucking question.
I have some theories.
The students ask a question back, right? Isn't that how it works, Sean?
They ask.
When
No.
Bob, the science guy,
I can't remember. I'm too old. What
Needs a
school was
fucking
like?
answer.
Okay.
Someone asks you a question, you answer it. You don't ask a question
No,
with
no,
a question.
no,
or answer a question with
no.
a question.
That's not how. No. That's not how class works.
Oh,
Sean.
it's not.
No.
Oh.
The teacher asks a question and asking for raise a hand. Who has an answer? Right? Raise the hand. Who has the answer?
What the fuck is going on here, Aaron? What are you
I don't
talking
know.
about, bro?
I think
We're
he's on
fucking adults
something.
here, man.
Is this the guy that was drunk the other day arguing with me? Oh, okay.
Probably.
Aaron, do you want to be the teacher?
No, I would like to be the
dry eraser.
I'd like to be the one outside the classroom when the students walk out, going, "What'd you learn?" Right?
You're gonna be the one. You're gonna be la maestra.
Yeah. What did you learn in science class today?
Not to talk to flat earthers.
Carlos, you're funny.
Well, you know you're gonna break that rule, Carlos.
Aaron, how about you teach us then something? Do you accept that the basics of science work?
Let me go back to my premise on Sean's.
Wait for the question. Wait for the questions as answers from Aaron.
Jose, we have to go back because I've been obfuscated and ran over the whole fucking time.
Really?
No, I don't want to be a science teacher. Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't want. But when you stand on 1,000-foot hill and you look off to the distance, what is the angle of drop to the horizon? Bob said it's 0.008 degrees. That's it. 0.008. So we're talking about a difference from a globe to flat of 0.008 degree. It could be flat or it could be globe. We're 0.8. That's it. We're not talking about a massive drop where you're like, yep, hey, Aaron, look at that. I mean, it's fucking going down. You know,
Yes, but Aaron,
it's globing real big.
Aaron,
right?
as you increase your elevation, it drops further, and on a horizontal plane, it wouldn't.
Listen, but in the distance, do you agree that you have to look through more atmosphere? You don't know where the end of the horizon is.
Hey, Sean G, could you check your Discord? I sent you some screenshots that I think you might be amused by.
Yes, sir.
And maybe even might want to present. I sent them in order, by the way.
All right. Give me 1 second. Do I pull that up?
Who is that English sounding dude that just talked?
Me.
No, not sure.
But definitely wasn't me.
No, that's racist.
Y'all need to quit it.
Yeah, the English sounding dude. What's your name? My name's Aaron.
I'm unpaid shield.
I know the other guy.
Which guy? There's a few of us here that speak English.
No, the English sounding. I said accent.
English.
I sound English.
No, you don't sound English, Connolly.
I'm sorry, sir. I don't speak Americano. Sorry.
No hablo inglés.
All right, Jose, you don't count.
No, porque está bien tomado.
He's Spanish.
I speak Australian English.
Count.
No, I sé.
No hablo español.
Obviamente.
No problem.
Je suis spreche Deutsch.
Monstein.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui.
Oui, senor.
No. Don't do it.
Carlos speaks Welsh.
Well,
I'm still crying. I don't count.
Diolch yn fawr. I speak Welsh.
Aloha, bon amigo.
صباح الخير حبيبي.
Right? Was it?
You guys.
Was it myself or Channel X you wanted to refer to as the English sounding person?
You. Well, are you English or Irish?
Oh my word!
Gosh. We're still trying to figure
he's
that
going to
out.
start a war.
I am British, Aaron.
Yeah, you sound British. Yes, you do. Hardcore.
Such an asshole.
That is hilarious.
So what? Right. So what's the question?
I can't remember now. What were we talking about? Oh no! I got it. Yeah, we're talking about standing on the 1,000-foot mountain, looking over, a flat plane from an eye line to a horizon, and we're going to take a measurement. Right? There is no way you can determine that horizon.
Are you going to be breathing apparatus at 1,000
in
feet?
orthographic view, yes, you can. In orthographic view, yes, you can. But from where we are standing, let's say me and you were up there, there's no way we know how far that is.
Aaron, was I involved in that conversation at all?
No, I don't think so.
Right, so why are you asking me questions about that? Because I have freely admitted on this show and on Jose's, I'm a fucking idiot.
I was trying to bring you in, that's all. I was trying to bring you in.
And I was I was entering the conversation to ask you, do you agree that the basics of science work?
You can't be so vague. Say more than the basics of science.
That we understand that what water is, that we understand how airplanes work, that we understand how rockets get off the ground.
Holy shit, so you're talking about hydrodynamics, aerodynamics, and now rockets?
That's dynamics.
That's not a basics of science.
But you agree that we know how they work.
Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, but when do you think we learn about these things? At what age?
No. I'm not talking about when we learn them. I'm just talking about right now. Do you agree that they work?
What is they?
Yes, Aaron. Yes. Answer yes. Please move on. Be honest. Who are once, please, Aaron.
Just relax.
Be fucking honest, bro.
I'm talking to a man.
Please.
I'm a man. You're a man. You could bow out. You could bow out.
You guys hear that?
I am a walrus.
They work. Like you said, water work, air works, rockets work. What do you mean they work? What do you mean they? Like the science behind it?
Do you agree that man has learned enough about air and using hot air to make a balloon float, that they understand how it works?
Carlos, what are you presenting that's going to
I'd have to reasonably believe.
Thank you. I cannot deal with the dishonesty of Aaron. Cannot answer a direct question and just sorry, Aaron.
Hold on.
Carla.
You'll be alright. Don't
Carlos,
worry about it.
I love that video, Carlos.
I'd have to reasonably believe. Yeah. Believe that man has figured out hot air balloons. Yes.
Right. So if you believe that man has learnt these things, at what point do you think scientists and engineers start to lie to us about what's going on? Because if you think this is all fake, you must have reached some point that you believe that all these people have started lying or misdirecting us. So what is that point for you?
Okay, I have a very good answer. Jose, I hope you're here. Hold on.
Jose got tired of your shit and left.
Oh, damn it. Maybe he's listening still. It's when a steel core iron building constructed of concrete and an outer skin of steel, free falls on its own. That's when I deny science.
Time out. First
That's
of all,
when
get one
I
thing
deny
straight.
science.
Let's get one thing straight. First of all, you don't know what you're talking about because that didn't even fucking the building's not made of concrete with an exterior of steel.
Steel
you
core.
Hear yourself.
Steel core. Yep. Steel core.
Okay, it's not what you said. Second of all, it didn't fall at free fall, and there are many characteristics that show clearly it was not a demo. Even though this is so off topic.
Let's not go there.
The gentleman just asked me, at what point do I deny science?
No. You went off on a tangent onto another subject. I asked you, at what point did the scientists stop lying or start lying to us that you believe that things like satellites don't exist and that we can't put?
That's not what you said.
No, that was my question. If you choose not to understand it, then that's not my fault.
Okay, so repeat your question one more time. I'll answer it without going to the steel building.
If scientists have understood, or scientists and engineers have understood things to the point that they can make rockets and airplanes and these things that everybody can use, at what point did they start lying that things like satellites can't exist and satellite communications? What was that? Where is that point for you, Aaron? In science, when does it become a lie?
Well, because there's going to be a limit, right?
What limit?
Well, a limit to height, which is what the gentleman was just talking about. Is yes, scientists. He didn't include engineers, but I'll include that for him. Engineers designed these airplanes. Engineers designed these airplanes.
He did specifically say engineers.
They can only go to a certain altitude. That's it. There is a limit. Okay?
Right. No. But right. So again, why? What did you find that tells you that these scientists and engineers are lying to us all when they say we're putting stuff into space? Because they have done it. They have said they've done it. So what lie did you find that disagrees with that?
I would say it was about 2014, 2015, when the Big Bang Theory, that TV show, came on, and Howard was floating in space.
And the ISS, yeah?
Yeah, and I was like, if they can project that,
I watched
I'm not saying fake. I'm not saying fake it. Whatever he was doing, maybe he was in space. I don't know.
No, you moron. He was sitting on his chair on a green screen.
Yeah, maybe.
So you're taking something.
And it was about a 20-minute shot. It was a 20-minute shot of a dude floating through space.
Aaron, the whole show is only 26 minutes long an episode.
On public TV. Yeah.
Aaron, the whole show is only 26 minutes long an episode.
Well, you asked me what was the limit right there. I had already kind of was looking into flat Earth stuff, and stuff, and space. But when I saw that, I was like, fuck. If they can do that on public TV,
you are rejecting that huge body of science that says we can do these things for something you saw on a comedy show.
Are you rejecting that you saw Big Bang Howard floating through space, right?
You see him?
No, I never saw it.
Did that happen on
the No, he did. He was not floating through space, Aaron.
Does that look like?
What was he doing? What was he doing?
Look at it. He's sitting on a desk chair, sliding towards that blue thing. What the heck, man? Okay. You see that?
Right.
That's not the International Space Station. I hate to disappoint you.
No, we're gullible, but he thinks this is.
I like how Carlos, you throw like 3 seconds of it. You don't show the whole thing.
Yeah,
And he floats the pen.
I'm showing you
let me show. Let me
I'm
see when he fucking flips the pen, Carlos. Come on.
I'm showing you the
pen is CGI.
Look how natural that is.
Carlos,
Is that what it's supposed to look like?
3 seconds. Come on, man. Be a real man.
I don't want
Show the whole motherfucker.
I'm showing you to have a copyright strike.
Aaron, at this stage,
Well, then
I'll
skip
say
it and go to
thank
the
you
next one.
very much, but if that's your height of reasoning, then...
Show it. Hey, Carlos, show it when he flips the pen. When he flips the pen right in front of him.
Where it looks super fake? Yeah, sure. Hang on. Let me see if I can.
Is this where you're getting your science from?
Look at that. Hang on. Look at that.
Whoa, that's not. Oh, that's not a chair. That's not a chair.
Dude,
what is he doing right there?
Look, everything is moving, but his waist, because that's where he's anchored.
Hold on. Oh, he's on wires. Oh
No.
wow. You know what, Carlos? It looks exactly like the ISS.
Nothing.
If you
Nothing.
It looks exactly like the ISS.
No understanding, no background understanding how this stuff works. You can easily fooled by some cheesy what's it called? Sitcom production quality. Look at that. Do you see how this nothing moves here except for all his limbs?
No, because your video keeps cutting out. It keeps pixelating into some other fucking bullshit. Why would you do that?
Is it
play the whole fucking video?
He is not doing that.
Oh Lord! Here, let me show the part that he wanted to see the pen flying around. Maybe he'll shut up.
Hey, while you're doing that, Aaron, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. It's back to that 1,000-foot mountain thing. On a flat Earth, what would be the angle to the horizon?
I'm not the one asking that question. I'm not the one to answer that question.
Hey, what's your
You
problem?
should answer.
I can tell you.
I can
answer that
So can I.
So Bob the science guy answered. It says it was 0.00 what? 0.02
Sean, why don't we waste our time with this?
angle drop, right?
I'm not.
So Bob the
I'm not
science
sure if you
guy
noticed,
already
I
answered.
haven't talked at all.
I know, but I
was listening for the geoengineering.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, did you get those screenshots?
No, I actually got sidetracked. I apologize. It's right here though now. I have it now. I'm looking at it.
So the guy that asked me the question, right? The guy that asked me the question about the 1,000. Are you there?
Yes.
I'm gonna pre-read it real quick. Unpaid, just
okay.
Yep, I redacted it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Look at that helmet. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Too funny.
Let me close one argument, Carlos. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. Look at it.
Yeah, but he's floating through space, spinning pens around, doing exactly what you see on the ISS.
No.
That is a comedy show, and he's definitely not doing anything that they were doing on the ISS.
Video-wise, yes.
No,
exactly.
video-wise, no. You're wrong.
Well, then it's not. Then why wouldn't they think it's
insolent
true?
Moron. No, you don't know what you're talking about.
So the people
That's
that
funny.
watch.
Is he serious? I want to know if he's serious.
Who, me?
Okay.
No, Aaron. Is this serious?
He's about 5 years deep.
Okay, Sean, that should show the amount of respect that he comes charging in with.
Yeah, I just read. You're a dick, Aaron. Like,
look at that.
It's funny.
You're just a dick. Hang on, I'll show it right now. Hang on.
I just want to know if that's serious argument.
No, you're a dick.
Yeah, these are some screenshots of my first email contacts with Aaron.
Let's see.
Yeah, you're definitely a dick. Hang on, give me a sec. I'm putting them to my.
I called Charles a pussy. Yes, I did.
I have redacted all personal information out of it, so there's no privacy issues. Don't worry, Aaron. I'm not a dick.
2979.
Okay,
Call me.
So
pussy.
here he goes. It says.
Somebody sharing?
I'm gonna share it with you guys now, but it's gonna look weird for a second because I'm sharing
Shout out to No Name.
Why is it not?
So now you're doxing me. That's great. You're just doxing me. That's fucking cool.
No, he's not doxing you because your avatar name is the same, and that's it.
What are you doing?
Whatever that is,
I don't care.
someone is.
My name's Aaron Morfield.
Stop, Aaron, stop.
406-2979. Call me, motherfuckers.
Aaron, shut up. Fuck.
I'm not worried about it.
Good grief.
No one's doxing you.
Don't worry about it. We're only for 20 minutes.
Come to my house. Don't matter.
Right. So that's basically it.
Please no.
Aaron says.
The original was too small.
Just so I remember, this is the conversation you guys had on Jose's when you were trying to debate, right? Unpaid.
Yeah, about what?
Yeah,
what
this was to set up the debate on Jose's channel.
What was that show? It was about 2 months ago, maybe? Roundabout?
It was in August. He says, call me, or says, call me.
Yeah.
And
2
he
months.
said, pussy. He said, I'd rather not call you a pussy. Or Shill says, I'd rather not call you a pussy. I would much rather debate you. I will pass your contact info to Jose, and the two can make any necessary arrangements. I'm assuming you blocked out the number and everything, so thank you for doing that, and I thank you for Aaron, because he's an asshole and wouldn't do it himself. Aaron says, just call me. Sounds like a weird porno you guys are about to do.
Call me, mate.
He says, just call me. No argument. Aaron says, no argument. Something.
He said his phone number again.
And he says, and then this is the part that made me irritated. Aaron says, I want to learn. And
there we go.
Then he said, wait, we're not done.
True.
Unpaid
yeah,
says, yes,
here we go.
I think it would be more productive and produce, or what is that?
And prudent. I saw it. I think it would be more productive and prudent than any correspondence regarding the debate goes through Jose. Be well, Unpaid.
But Aaron says, no worries. I don't normally speak with subjects anyway. Suit yourself, slave.
What?
Yeah, so Aaron just called him a slave.
I don't mind no fans.
I did kind of do that. I'm sorry, Sills, but no, actually, I'm not. But,
yeah, and that's how Aaron shows people respect when he doesn't even know who the hell they are.
Yeah,
I respected you all the way through.
I've definitely
conversation. Come on.
I definitely noticed a trend with you, Aaron. Beginning of the conversation, you're good, fine, and then as the conversation progresses throughout the night, you become more and more asshole-ish.
Shill called me a subject. He called me in that. Reread that.
Okay, yeah, let's show Aaron. Point it out. Show me where.
Okay. Can I jump in a little bit?
Please do.
I saw that episode of Big Bang when it was aired. And it was quite humorous because it was obviously done in the studio. The effects are low grade because it's a TV show and they don't have the budget. That pen was obviously CGI. The movements were obviously contrived, moving slowly and floaty, not anything like they move on the ISS. I watched hundreds of hours of ISS footage over the past 10 years. So no, that wasn't. I don't think that was in any way, shape, or form, indicative of the type of things you see on ISS footage. Not in any way, shape, or form. Sorry, no. Are you really arguing that? Can I answer that? I really want to know. Are you really arguing that?
Yeah, I'm not going to argue your interpretation of what you've seen about that. All I'm saying is that video of the the Big Bang was presented to the public as footage of
no.
the ISS. Okay,
let me take this
representative to the public of what it should look like.
No, you
we should look like.
God,
no.
My God!
Okay.
So you think
Aaron.
everybody that was watching that video really thought that Howard wasn't in the ISS?
Yes. Obviously.
Oh my God! You have no idea what the public is.
Aaron, at no point did that show or anyone watching that show go, oh my God, why didn't they tell us that he launched and went to space?
Are one of your
Can't be
ancestors?
serious. You can't be
Are
serious.
one of your ancestors one of the people that called the Coast Guard and asked them to save all those people on Gilligan's Island?
Those poor people. Have you seen Galaxy Quest?
Yeah, hashtag Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest was. Help us, Commander. You are our last hope.
I have no idea what the hell you guys are even saying right now.
Translator is broken.
Sean hasn't seen Galaxy Quest.
No, luckily.
The Bluesians. Oh, Galaxy Quest. Best Star Trek ever. Best Star Trek movie ever.
Star Trek.
Check this out. Look at this. This is too.
Look
at that. How do you do that with harnesses?
Right, that's Terry Virts.
Yeah, where's the wires?
Where are the wires? Show me.
Yeah. Carlos, can you show me exactly how they did it on the Big Bang Theory?
Sure.
Yes. Gosh, I could show you.
Actually, I can show you. You see my camera?
Hang on one second.
Yes.
Yep.
I see you.
You see this desk chair? So you remove the back, you remove the handles here, and you get a green screen, and then you do this right here. Woo!
All over, Carlos.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Hey, I'm not discounting you, Carlos. I like your
for the record,
presentation.
you don't need a green screen anymore. Just a chroma key.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Hang on. Elaborate, Sean. What do you mean you don't need a green screen anymore?
Masking. I'm sorry. Or you can use masking. On OBS, they have the new filters, and you can just filter out the stuff in the back.
Now, I haven't. Still use a green or blue screen, and then you still go back in.
Aaron, why? Because it's easier
I have an idea.
to black out the background with one big solid color.
I have an idea.
Right, so you still use green screen.
I have an idea.
Kind of a green screen, but Sean, you can't just use that, right?
Channel X was speaking.
Yeah.
Channel X,
I have an idea. So thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Aaron, I just had an idea. I'm sorry I can't talk too loudly. I apologize. So I have this idea. Do what some of the flat earthers have been doing and go out into the street. Okay, take your camera and find people. Just go up to people and say, do you watch The Big Bang Theory? And if they say no, walk on and go with the next person. Until you find someone that has, they would have seen that episode of Howard going up on the International Space Station. Ask them, do you believe that he actually went to the International Space Station?
Or show them the episode. Show them the footage.
Show them the footage. Do you believe that this is on the International Space Station? I'd love to see the results of that, because everyone is going to say, no, it's a TV show.
Can you take a screenshot
my response
of
my response,
some of that footage?
Yeah,
of the,
Aaron,
I'd
like to hear yours.
My response.
Or present it again.
Aaron's response, yeah.
I was going to say,
My
present
response
you can present it again, because I'm going to take a screenshot and then side by side the ISS and that footage together.
Oh.
Go ahead, Aaron.
But I need to see it first.
Yeah, my response to that would be, I wouldn't just ask them if they believe it's real. I would say, do you think it looks real? And they would say, absolutely yes.
Okay, do that. Go ahead and do that.
Hang on, let me put it on one speed.
Go ahead and find someone. Go ahead and find somebody.
Nobody's going to say it looks fake because it looks so real. Right?
Go ahead and find somebody who believed that Howard was aboard the ISS or that it looked even real.
No. I'm not going to ask them if they believe Howard is on the ISS. I'm just going to say, ask them, do you believe or do you think that footage looks so real?
Maybe it doesn't look real.
That would be a presupposition as to what other people are thinking at that point.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Well, okay, I'll go out.
Hang on, Aaron.
All right,
stop.
I'll try that.
Hold on. Sorry, guys. I hate to cut in like that. I've been waiting patiently, which is not like me at all. Anyway, and I think this is germane to the conversation here.
What does germane mean? What the fuck is germane, by the way?
It's no name. Anyway, so I'm a pretty stubborn guy. I don't like to let go of things easily, especially not an argument.
Get to the point. Don't sit here and tell us about what your fucking lifestyle is.
Shut up.
Excuse me. So, one thing that I had to learn a long time ago was that well, this comes from my experience mostly in sales, but I tried really hard to help out a customer service, that sort of thing. And one thing that I had to get told at some point is that there are some people you just can't ever make happy. You just can't please them, no matter what you do.
Like Aaron's wife.
This panel, this panel has offered Aaron tons of answers, and it doesn't matter. At a certain point, guys, you just have to let go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. That's all.
That's why I don't engage Aaron anymore, really. Or unless it's the first 10 minutes. After that, I won't talk to Aaron about Flat Earth. It's really aggravating. I've made that very clear distinction between Aaron, between the distinction of talking to him about like what we do for a living, because I can actually talk to Aaron for hours about that, versus Flat Earth. Because again, here's the big thing. Aaron's not even a fucking flat earther.
I know. Anybody who thinks that Aaron needs to boot Type 1.
I did want to bring up a point that we seem to be overlooking with the effects that they usually do in movies today compared to movies that were done, say, 30, 40, even 50 years ago. At the time of when the effects came out, whatever time period it was, it did look realistic or close to it for the time period. So that's all it is the time period now. Something that's similar to what it should be now is what the technology is today.
Remember, you would say it was acceptable for that time. The special effects that they would achieve, and it was cutting edge for the time as well, and not necessarily that they look real, but it was cutting edge, and the quality of image also helped mask some of that imperfections. So especially when they use paintings, matte paintings, and also miniatures, that helped a lot. Because
who remembers the old Western movies where they're in the studio camping by the fire, and in the background you could see it like a painted backdrop as the scenery.
Right. If you didn't have a quality, you could get away with that, and that was that's why it was acceptable. It was good enough for the time. But now we have better equipment to replay this media, and better equipment to capture it. So there's a lot more. You have to work a lot harder to make it look believable or realistic.
Okay,
but the point I'm making is that you're looking at stuff today the way people would go, yeah, that looks realistic, and then compared to back then, people would look at some of the special effects and go, oh, that looks realistic.
Well, they still do, or at least they still do,
at least good enough.
Well, it's a little iffy when it comes to people on a microgravity, because physics. If you understand physics and how the center of gravity of a human would change and shift, and how inertia works, then you can very easily spot out that there's something going on. Like especially when you see all these heroes in the movies jumping, you can see where they swing front, back, or left and right, because they're in a 2-point harness, and that's.
But how much percentage of the population can understand those type of things? Not everyone's a scientist or does physics or whatever, so they get entertained by these movies. And that's the people that they.
And another thing is you have to look at the lighting as well. I mean, you can like the two ISS side by side, the Big Bang and the regular ISS. You can tell the difference in the lighting. You can tell the difference in how the equipment looks and things like that, where you can just completely tell.
Can you see Howard's wires though? Like if he's hung by
there are no wires. He's sitting on a chair, but basically
so the background moving, right?
You moron! You don't know what you're talking about. You never actually. I'm done talking to you.
No, Carlos. The background is moving. He's sitting on a mobile chair, a three-point chair. He can move up and down, left, right.
You know what? Hang on.
You say it's a three-point chair?
Carlos?
What you say?
Carlos said he's sitting on a roller chair. He's moving back and forth on a roller chair.
Like a deck chair.
That's what it looks like.
It's set.
Or
just like cameras move, on a dolly, it's the same exact thing.
All right, guys, let me get this. Let me get through this real quick. Aaron, thank you again for the super chat. Aaron says, and I'm not sure why he talks in third person. Shout out to Aaron and Sean G.
Don't worry, Sean, because you do a good job. Thank you for not muting me, motherfucker.
There's photos of the set.
What?
They used in the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out behind the scenes on the actual ISS.
Yeah, I'm getting them right. I'm actually getting them right now.
You'll find a picture of they have one where it's the capsule, right, and then they have one where it's the set, and you'll see like there's a guy and a girl like kind of like dancing in it or some shit. But yeah, it's a regular fucking set. Aaron, sorry to disappoint you, man.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, Sean, does anybody else donate to you except me? Like, am I the only one?
Today?
Or what?
Today, you're the only one.
Yeah,
where's
our supporters, bro? Where are they?
I'm here
watching and on the panel. You don't have to super chat me to show your support. I don't force that at all.
No, I do because I actually appreciate you. That's it.
Oh,
thank you, Aaron. I appreciate you in a way.
Carry on.
It's a very special way.
This has been very entertaining.
You're still missing some nuts, though. I mean, that's cool that you're.
So what I want to say, what I want to ask. Let me ask something. The Howard video.
Yeah.
Dude.
They're doing that in an effect where he's actually on a chair, Carlos, or
whatever.
Dolly. Let's say a dolly or something.
Oh, now you know about video equipment. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm looking at the two in the show ISS and the ISS that we see all the time. Aaron, you realize that how clusterfuck the ISS is, right? Versus the show, which is zero clusterfuck.
I mean, that's
talking about the effect.
Even give him
the
that.
effect of weightlessness on a video, right? That's all I'm talking about is the effect.
Well, the interesting thing is, at no point has any flat earther addressed Terry Virts' trip from the front to the back of the ISS.
Yeah, we don't have to because reasons.
They can't.
But nobody's addressed the Big Bang Theory, the multimedia.
Because they don't need to.
Actually, on screen right now. On screen right now is literally. What the hell?
Sorry.
I'm telling you right now, they're not the same, and you could tell that right off the bat because either. Yep. I mean, I'm looking at it. The ISS literally is a clusterfuck of stuff. Every picture I've looked at, it's just nothing but clusterfuck.
What do you mean?
So hang on. Shout out to Trish Bailiff. That was her message. Shout out to Trish.
Yay, Trish Blythe.
So
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for one empirical and exclusively indicative piece of evidence for a flat Earth.
Chills. How about
drugs? Why do you keep asking these people for this?
I would love an explanation.
They don't have.
I would love an explanation for what Carlos has on the screen or did have. I can't see it right now. Oh yeah, I can. What is moving? Him, Howard, the dude right there in the mainstream media.
I think,
or is the background moving? And then you go
for the camera and his character.
Hang on. I think Aaron is talking about what David Weiss was saying to Jaren about 3 weeks ago on Monday. Is that true? Are you suggesting that?
Never heard it, but tell me what they were saying.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, it most likely is him that's moving or whatever he's sitting on. And perhaps it's a green screen, or they are masking out the chair or the dolly, replacing it with the clean plate of the background. I mean,
they're masking out.
Have you ever done any rotoscoping or compositing on video?
I'm saying the opposite. Maybe Howard is stationary, but the background is moving.
You know what? Either way, it's not real, and they're not selling it as if it is real. You moron.
Yes, they are selling it as it's real. They showed it to the public.
Aaron, they are not selling it. It's a comedy TV show,
Aaron,
not
at
one
They
point.
showed Game of Thrones. Are they also passing that as history?
They showed the moon landings on TV.
Oh, wait, no.
Right?
Guys,
yeah, and when I crack open a beer, the Swedish bikini team suddenly magically appears in my living room. That's real too.
Whoa! What beer? What beer?
I'm coming to your place, Shills.
What
beer?
Team?
No,
Budweiser, wasn't it?
Liar. Those are horses.
What do you have? No Budweiser. No Budweiser. It was Bud Light.
There's no mascot for the Bud Light.
Man,
it's not a
juicy
Blue Mountains.
Remember Spud? What was it? Spuds McKenzie?
That's Budweiser, not Bud Light. Not
Sputnik.
Bud Light.
Bud Light is Buzzweiser. It's Budweiser's light beer.
No.
I prefer.
It's Anheuser-Busch.
I prefer Slurms McKenzie.
I don't know who the hell that is.
Bud Light has no mascot.
Slurms McKenzie. You don't know who Slurms McKenzie is?
I do not.
Okay.
Anheuser-Busch owns both
Another
Budweiser and Bud Light.
Hang on, super chat. Thank you, Hannah Anderson. Hannah says, "Shout out to Hannah and no name." Is that like the new thing now? Shout yourself out. Fuck it, Sean. Don't say talk to us. So I like that. I like the people that.
You have to watch
I brew my
Futurama.
own damn shit. I don't even worry about it.
I watched
So, Carl-
Futurama right up until that one-eyed chick and
Shout out to the Ether Man.
married.
Go ahead, Sean. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
That was right at the end.
All right, another super chat. Unpaid Chills says, "I'm so damn awesome." Thank you, Unpaid. I am pretty awesome.
Let's do this. Super chat rally. Here we go.
You know what? If you guys want a super chat, you guys could do the PayPal way. That way I don't have to wait, and YouTube don't get shit.
Well, how do I
still do that?
What? Why don't you fucking
No,
tell me
it
how
doesn't
to do
matter. You should fucking pay attention. I'm not interested in doing a tutorial how to get to my fucking PayPal.
I'm a dirt worker, man.
Realistically, it's not even that important. If I could figure out a way to significantly make your messages like more clear between all the others, I just tell you to fucking do it that way, and I'll shout you out that way. I don't care about this fucking money. Trust me.
I'm a dirt worker, motherfucker. You know I don't get it.
Dirt worker. You get some dirt out of your head. Think straight, boy.
Wait a minute. Don't talk shit about construction.
Oh no! You know what? That's not what I meant. I would hate to be the guy that talking down on somebody because of their profession, on like a quantum eraser. That's not what I meant at all. I was just trying to be funny. No offense to your profession. I respect it. Hard-working man. I'm serious. I don't like that. You ever heard a quantum eraser say, "Go back to the road to pick up cans"?
Shit.
Dude,
Wow.
I'm sorry. Like, what is that?
Being racist.
Carlos, it's okay. No big deal. We get it. No big deal.
Hey, Carlos, did you ever upload those?
I got the footage. I haven't finished editing. This month has been crazy, man. But yeah, I got the footage done, so I just need to get it uploaded edited and then upload it. So.
Okay. Well, probably tonight I'm gonna upload. Remember when I asked you to do the sunrise sunset?
Oh yeah, yes.
I'm gonna upload. Like it's only like 10 seconds, but I'm gonna upload that, and then I'll use that as a look out for your upload.
My man.
There you go.
Appreciate
it. Took me a while because finding the right shots, and then I couldn't use any audio because I think we just talked shit the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time it was. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like intoxicated and just talking crap the whole time.
I wonder who that could have been.
I was trying to get the sunrise this morning, but I kind of got rained out on that one. So I'll try again this morning.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and for everyone else that knows, because Sean's actually been pretty cool and helping, and we're trying to do this. If you guys want to be involved in that what the hell's in the sky at this time game. Basically, I've been doing the same thing where, and Sean's been letting me know where and when he's taking his photos. But it'd be cool to have a compilation of photos and times of these photos to, start, comparing. Because the realization is if we all live in different places and we're getting these images that correlate and make sense on a globe, maybe that'll help somebody at least.
I want to do one at the end of this month of observation of Polaris angle, because I'm going to be in Central America, so that would give a pretty good range to get different measurements.
This is Aaron. I'd love to do one standing on.
Hi, Aaron. How you doing, buddy?
Who's this again?
Hill. I'd love to do one standing on 1,000-foot hill, looking at the horizon.
Why do you keep calling it a fucking hill?
Because that's what Bob the science guy told me, to stand on 1,000-foot hill, and how far is the drop to the fucking horizon? And if it's 41 fucking miles, and he's gonna tell me that there's a 0.02, 0.06 drop of the horizon at 40 miles.
And it's letting you know right now, Aaron. No name's here, and he doesn't have a problem telling you, shut the fuck up.
You gotta be kidding me.
Hey, Aaron, you still haven't explained to me, like, what would be the angle on a flat Earth?
I can tell you.
Hang on, was anyone else entertained by Bob the Science Guy asking Aaron questions like he was? I think the whole time I was like, do you really expect him to fucking answer this shit?
The back and forth between him and Travis was hilarious.
I got a question. And I've been following this debate for a couple of years now, and I don't think anyone has ever asked a Flurf this question before.
What?
What happens, like tomorrow? Say the conspiracy comes tumbling down, and it turns out that you're right, that it was flat the whole time, that NASA was just fucking with you or whatever.
Yeah.
What are the ramifications? What happens tomorrow when that news breaks?
Mark Sargent has
you want to know? No. Do you want to know?
All right.
Hello.
Yeah.
Ask the question one more time. The endpoint.
Sure. What are the ramifications? What's the fallout? What happens tomorrow if the Earth turns out to be a flat, stationary plane where with little small lights rotating in a crazy manner around us? What happens?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
You're still gonna be a bald-headed slave.
Oh, a slave. A slave to whom?
You're still gonna be a slave.
A slave. It like in a Britney Spears slave to you kind of sexy slave way, or what?
Listen, Baldy. Hey, Baldy.
At least you got George Clooney.
Aaron.
Sorry.
Relax.
Relax,
buddy.
Aaron.
Here you go.
He was attacking me. Fuck him.
No, I wasn't. I was asking a question. I was asking a question. I've never heard a Flurf answer.
It don't matter. You're still gonna be a slave. It really don't matter.
Well, then why the hell are we arguing about it?
Why are you yelling?
Why are we arguing?
Why are you yelling?
If we're all just slaves in some vast conspiracy, why are we arguing about it?
Why are you yelling?
Why are we burning? Why are we burning it all down?
If you're not worried about it,
why aren't you burning it all down?
Go home there, Baldy.
Ought you not
it seems to be
act on your moral imperative?
Yeah, the only way to
get
actually
through
talk
to
you,
you,
Aaron, is to yell at you. It's the only thing that's ever worked for me.
No name. Were you in Ocean's 11?
What?
Were you in Ocean's 11? I swear that's you in Ocean's 11.
That's racist, man. Not all bald guys were in Ocean's 11. Okay, that's.
All you bald guys look alike to me.
Yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, I would put that question out to the flat Earth community, other than Aaron, who's got this weird slave thing. I got your bizarre schizo answer. Whatever. You have a mental health issue, Aaron.
Yes,
you need to go see a shrink.
I'm a flat earther. I'm a ball earther. I'm a concaver. The point is,
can't.
it does not
You
matter
can't
because
hold all
you,
those beliefs. Those
you will
beliefs are
still
mutually
be
exclusive.
the slave that you are, regardless of shape.
You sound like Kent Hovind to me.
Oh my God! Don't say that.
No, he sounds no different.
Listen, I'm
You're
in the
still
same
gonna
boat.
burn in hell. You're still gonna
I'm the
drink
same
water.
slave. I'm the same slave. Right?
Okay.
I'm the same one. It doesn't matter.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So in other words, nothing.
Nothing. Right. Okay. Moving
Pretty
on
much,
then.
yeah. It's a net zero,
Okay.
Shields. You're right. It's a net zero because
No, I'm just serious. Like, put it out there. I'm sure you're not the only flirt in this room, Aaron, and you've been talking over people all night. So I'm just gonna take the liberty of talking the hell all over you.
Go for it.
Your little delusion, this fantasy that you live in, and that's all it is. And somebody needs to point it out to you,
Hey,
point
what's
blank.
your name?
You
What's your
live
name,
in
by
a
the way?
fantasy. My
What's
name
your
is no name.
Okay, so you're not talking all over me. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, all I'm saying is that your little delusion, it's just an ego stroke. That's all it is. It's just to hear your own voice. So why don't you just fucking shut up? I mean, we're not slaves. I mean, sure, if you think in some weird, like, Keynesian manner, but we're just contributing to society so our kids have a better place in the world past us. That's all we can do. But you're over here trying to tell kids that the earth is flat? I mean, what the hell is that, man? That's harmful. That's harmful to children. And that's where I draw the line.
Is that line straight and level?
That's all you got?
Well, all you've got is, it's a conspiracy! So yeah, that's all I've got. I can dismiss your claims just as easily as you make them. It's just that easy.
I mean, repeatedly, I have asked every Globe Denier that I've run across, can you show me one piece of empirical, exclusively indicative evidence of a flat Earth? And I've got nothing. I've never received a single piece of evidence. I have gotten denial. I have gotten the proverbial. I've gotten the proverbial 5 Ds of Globe Deniers: deny, dodge, divert, disparage, and disappear. But I've never gotten evidence.
Yeah.
That tells me a lot.
Let me talk to No Name there.
No.
Big fathead.
What?
Hey, fathead.
What do you? I don't even know what the fuck you're saying right now.
Yeah, I know. I can't pick it up
No
either.
Name. Sorry. Well, Sean, I can't talk into my mic and also do the camera. I can't. You know. So, fathead.
Oh Lord, there's your face. Oh, I wasn't prepared for that.
Who needs a camera?
Hey, Carlos. How are you?
I am sober. How about you?
I'm doing well.
You're probably doing real good with all that aluminum foil shielding. You don't get that 5G.
Oh yeah, radiant barrier.
Heck yeah, man.
It's hot as shit down here in Texas.
Get the 5G away from you, your brain.
Or okay, I could also use that for
The 2 cells you got left.
For shielding, you're right.
You want to cherish the 2 brain cells you got left, man.
No. I was using it for the sun. For the sun, though.
Oh gosh.
What's the sun?
Radiant barrier.
Why the hell would you do this? Who just asked what
guys,
the sun was?
I'm not gonna be able to.
Are you sure?
I'm not gonna be able to get an hour back. Sean Smith, that's
Hey,
beautiful.
where's Fathead?
Sean G, thank you. I will see you guys.
Thanks, Carlos.
Have a good one, Carlos.
Yeah, Terry likes dumpster fires.
I love that. Look at that. It looks like a Big Bang.
And Terry, if you're gonna run after, let me know so I can let everyone know.
Terry's asleep.
I can whip up a quick after show if anyone wants to hang out.
Well, I'm gonna. Well, hang on. Please.
I'm gonna be at church tomorrow, so I will probably won't be around, but I'll catch up with you guys Monday.
Alrighty.
Okay. It's Saturday over there. I forget.
I'll do the 50. I'm going to do a 15-minute warning now. Then.
I need to do a presentation of the ISS that on says Monday. That's what I need to do.
No, asshole.
Carlos.
Do that shit here.
And
don't give
by
me
the way,
the fucking opportunity to present. You want to know why? Because why not do it over at Jose's? More people watch. Fuck it. Just kidding.
No, it's because I don't know when you're gonna go and do a freaking show. I can send it.
I'm so consistent anymore.
You have to prove your love to me for me to decide where to do it.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not doing that. But yeah, I do apologize for that, people, because I was very consistent for a while. But like I said, I did make it clear. I got a construction project that I've been on for the next 2 more weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm working, and after that, then I'll be off until I find another contract. But I can guarantee these days, Mondays and Wednesdays, I probably won't be streaming. Other than that, I'll stream every day from there.
All right, I'll hold you to it, man.
And it'll be probably be about 6 o'clock West Coast time. I can't do the earlier ones anymore until after I get done with this project. But after that, I'll be back at noon.
10-4.
But no,
and by the way,
I was kidding on that part too about the presentation. I mean, anyone can present. If anyone wants to present anything, just let me know. I don't care. I'll kick everyone off mid show to do it. If I would have known Toady was going to present, I would have kicked Aaron off. Say again?
Yeah, that's the only one. Yeah, that's the only one I'm worried about. All right, friends, you have a good night. Stay flat and avoid the ether band.
Don't trip over it.
Don't trip over
Either
it.
or either.
Unless you got a really good cut of it. Wait.
Neither.
Don't breathe that in. Don't breathe this.
That's what they said.
Anyone remember Will It Bland?
Who?
Will It Bland?
No.
Will It?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Okay, that's an old school YouTube videos there. All right, later, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
Good night, Carlos.
Night, Carlos. Ought to start a new one. Will It Flat?
Will It Flat? Don't breathe this. All right, later.
Okay, if you're assuming a flat Earth, and you are using the limit of angular resolution, the declination to the horizon would be 0.264668200214567 degrees.
Are you basing that off of an orthographic projection, or?
It's mathematics. It works either way. It works both X, Y, and Z.
You don't want to see my ear, but yeah, I'm listening. So.
It works both X, Y, and Z.
Did you guys ever even have that debate? Or did Aaron completely bitch out?
Yeah, here, and I spanked him pretty good.
You guys had a debate here? Where the fuck was I? Damn, was it that bad? Did he fucking...
You must have been real tired.
You must have crushed you, Aaron. That it was so bad that it was just like a regular conversation. Aaron, are you trying to figure out how to get in the phone now?
Turn off my camera. The wife just showed up.
Yeah, that's why. Wait, maybe we want to see... Never mind. Let me see. I already gave the 15-minute warning, didn't I? I probably should have turned the timer on, huh?
Yeah, you should have.
I just did.
I'll set it for 15 minutes, so that'll be 3 minutes time.
I already set it. It's set now. And for those of you on OBS, or not OBS, damn, YouTube, you guys are in the top right. You guys are seeing a pretty awesome idea that I thought would be pretty cool, and Sean thought would be pretty cool as well. And since he does it pretty much every stream, I'm going to do this every time he does it. That is who is painting, Sean Smith. He's an artist. If you would like to see some more of his work, go over to my Discord. He has a channel in my Truth Army Frontline, and you can see it there. Otherwise, anytime he's painting and his camera turns on, I'm going to do it in that top right corner, where you can watch. So yeah, and I do appreciate that, Sean. This badass painting you got there going.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sean G. Yeah, let me be
You're cutting in and out.
a little bit of a. Is that any better?
A little bit. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is something I've been working on off and on. Just a little dragon with a colorful background. So that's about it right now. Other than that, I got a bunch of other paintings that are all over the place.
Well, I do appreciate you doing that while I'm streaming. It is pretty cool. I like it. And thank you for shouting me out on your links. And what was that? Was that Instagram? I think it was Instagram. Yeah, definitely Instagram.
Yeah, that was on Instagram.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you it's kind of inspiring to be on here. So I figure since I'm on here painting, show the inspiration. You know what I mean?
Awesome. I appreciate that big time. Respect likewise.
Sean, I have a question.
Oh shit. Okay, we just had a really good thing going. Go ahead and fuck it up.
Chills. Can you?
Probably.
Yeah. Can you diagram how you came up with that 0.2 on the flat Earth? Can you diagram that?
Yes. Any other questions?
Okay, how would you do that? Just give a small explanation of how you would do that.
You don't care. You don't care about answers when you ask questions, so I'm not going to bother.
Would you use a triangle or would you use calculus? Which one?
Either one works.
No, it doesn't, Chills. Stop it.
You're already talking to him. You don't have to say his fucking name. You make this so awkward.
Me and Chills are boys. Don't worry about it. We're boys.
Just got done calling him a fucking slave in the message.
I called myself a slave.
No, you did not. I have the messages. I'm looking at them right now.
I said we're all slaves. We're all slaves on a flat or it's globe. It don't matter. We're all slaves.
You may not have been talking to anyone relevant, but we didn't hear that.
Okay.
Hey, Jill.
Well,
Yo.
true.
Did you try to calculate using the geometric angle?
No, I was just going off the numbers that Bob was slinging around earlier.
I know, yeah, but that's not calculus.
For a flat Earth.
You're definitely using trigonometry there. Yeah.
I ended up doing the numbers. If you're looking, just say you're looking south and you're in Texas, the angle is 0.0011, and it just keeps going. The numbers keep going.
I would like the full numbers. Thank you.
0.0011. So that's my differentiation between a globe and flat is 0.0011
compared to 0.6. 0.6 and 0.00.
You guys, when I look out, the globe should fall away, right? It should,
you should fall off.
away.
But here's the thing, Aaron. That's only looking south.
The globe is round in all directions. Is
west,
it not?
and east are worse.
Is the globe round in all directions, or spherical in all directions? Is it yes or no? Is the globe spherical in all directions? Does it fall off? Or what do you call that?
Aaron, at this stage, I have to ask you a question. Are you just trolling people for the sake of trolling, like Spurs does?
No. I only come on Sean's show, and I donate. So I'm not just trolling.
Why do you keep saying that? You don't have to donate, though, Aaron. Just say no.
But I'm not just a troll. I actually want to know what you guys think.
Did you just hear what you said? Oh, I'm so happy I let me hit the button.
How does a troll donate and then be like, come on, guys, tell me what you think?
You said, I am not just a troll. Everyone else heard that, right?
Yeah, I'm not just a troll. I want to know what you think. Right?
Aaron, think about what you just said.
That does sound funny, Sean. You're right. I'm not just a troll.
Well, at least now you finally admitted you are one.
Yeah. But what I meant was, I'm not a troll, whatever that is. I just love to hear what you guys think, and I love to talk to you because I learn shit, and at least Sean provides a platform that I can get drunk on. Unlike Jose's, I can't get drunk on there.
Oh, you can.
No, you got to do a breathalyzer test before you come on my show.
Well, then I won't go on your show. I'm not worried about it. But you come on. But you come on this show.
Terry, you aren't allowed on your own show at that point.
You come on this show. So let's go back. The angle to the horizon is a great one. Come on, guys. It's a great one. People are saying that it's Bob, science guy was saying it's like 0.02 if you're at 6 foot tall or whatever. And you raise up 1,000 foot, he goes, it's 0.08. Okay? And you raise up to Wolfie, and he goes, it's 2 degrees. Whatever. But you're discounting.
At 36,000 feet, it was about 3.36 degrees declination.
Yeah, but you're discounting what Travis is talking about, which is the ether band. The
Rich Pelican?
Yeah. You don't know where the horizon is, and that also equates to Wolfie's instruments not dipping the nose down.
Don't have to.
Okay.
Aaron, if Wolfie's head-up display is wrong when he's at 36,000 feet, why would it be right when he gets to 20 feet as he's coming into land?
Because everything is flat. That's why. It's all flat.
Yes,
That's why.
All right, guys.
You've already admitted you're a troll.
Yeah.
So.
We're about to do circles. I'm going to go ahead and do the final words. Unpaid, you want to go ahead?
I'll yield my time and go at the end.
Okay. They and them.
Thanks, Sean. I think you're right. It's time to move away from flat Earth until they actually bring some positive evidence and talk about some more interesting things like geoengineering and climate change and people messing with food and stuff.
Probably tomorrow morning, I'm going to do a stream. It'll be the geoengineering topic only. No,
sounds good.
I'll go over what I was wanting to talk about. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, sir. And Chills, I'll get you on Discord after this just to go over that little project.
No, just stay on.
Cool.
Hey, Aaron, shut up. This is his time.
That's me. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody else in the panel.
Hey, stay on, sir.
Aaron,
when
go ahead
Sean
and
hangs
say
up,
yours.
you
You have
can
30
still be on
seconds.
with me.
Aaron, you have 30 seconds. Okay.
Oh, I have 30? Yeah, well, the guy that was just speaking, go ahead and stay on. When Sean hangs up, me and Shills will keep talking, I bet, and argue and fight and, bicker and punch each other, but just stay on there and it'll be fine. So don't worry about it. Just stay on and Sean will hang up. Thank you, Sean, for providing the platform. No worries about the fucking money. You deserve it. You provide a great fucking place for me to come over here and get drunk. It's better than going to the bar. That's for damn sure. So, cheers to you, man. Later.
Well, Aaron, I will say on that, thank you. I'd much rather you be home drinking than at a bar drinking because that usually leads to stupid shit. Who else is here? Channel X.
Yes, thank you for the forum. I would just like to say that all I really want is a proper cup of coffee made in a proper cup of coffee pot. Thank you.
Terry, or actually Terry, you're going to be last, or right before last, because you could I'll be able to promote you a little bit more after that. Erebus?
I'm driving.
Congratulations.
Yay, Erebus. Congrats, my friend.
Don't drink.
And if you want to go ahead and plug Terry's stream, then pardon the expression, then then I'll go first or before him.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Want me to hit it? All right. The thing I want to see more debunkers hammering on is asking for empirical and exclusively indicative evidence. The stuff of denial is not evidence. Diversion is not evidence. Disparaging the other person, not evidence. Get out and do your own damn experiments. Stop asking us to do the experiments and then saying, well, you did that wrong. Well, if we're doing it wrong, then design your own freaking experiments, get off your flat asses, and do them. That's about all I've got to say.
I agree. Terry, go ahead and any
Thanks, Sean.
words?
Thanks,
I will promote. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thanks for allowing me on. These are great shows. These are where we can discuss things. With my channel, I'm starting to go back to basics because it makes it easier, not just for me, but for a lot of people out there, because a lot of people might not admit to it, but they might not understand certain aspects of science or how we see things and why we see things the way they are. So I'm just trying to go back to the basics with the the fundamentals of science and math and things like that that'll actually show people how we get things and why they are.
Awesome. And for anyone who lives under a rock, go check out the Aussie Perspective. I think you put the link in the chat, correct? Thought I saw you did. And I will also do the same. That's what I forgot. That actually reminded me. So I got to put your channel link in my description and add it to my bot commands. But for anyone who is staying up or on the other side, go check out Aussie Perspective. He put the link in there. It's a pretty good show. And Terry's old, so we're all surprised he's able to keep going. Like, he goes longer than an hour, so we're all happy for him. Anyway,
his wife more than anybody.
Wow, yeah, he went there. I didn't say that, Terry.
Yeah, I know you did. So you'll get it.
And also, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so everyone go check that out. I don't know how you do your panels, so I don't want to share that at all. But for the ones that are in here and on the meetup and would like to join his panel, he put the link in there for you guys, so that way you guys can still stay on. I like Zoom, but it's a little too much when you just want to have a quick convo and set it up. You can't set up Zoom like you can set up these real quick.
I did. I've already had it done for ages. I've done it 15 minutes ago.
I wouldn't mind hanging out for a bit, Sean.
Wah, wah, wah.
Fuck off, Shields. I want to hang out with you and actually pinpoint you. That's what.
Whoa. Hey, I'm not going to lie. You and Unpaid, you guys have had the most oddest conversations on my panels over the few past month. Because I was going through my highlights, because I replay, I record it and then look for highlights and stuff of each stream, and I noticed something. You two both have this weird candor with each other where it's like you say something, then he'll say something. Some time passes, and then he'll say something again. And it's like very sexually. A lot of sexual tension in between you two.
Easy, Sean. Easy.
I can understand him wanting me. It's natural.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Please go check out Ozzy's Perspective. He's gonna be on right now, and if you like I said, if you want to be on this panel and you are in here, he did share the link. And with that said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Tonight was fun. We actually had, good conversation. Even though I talked to Aaron like he's my little brother, I actually do kind of like him a little bit. His way of asking questions is annoying as shit. I'm a little entertained by it because, again, Aaron's not a flat earther. So it's kind of odd to hear him arguing for flat earth perspectives, I guess. But with that, Aaron, I do appreciate the super chats, man. That stuff
worries,
is
bro.
just that's
we
just
make
because you
money.
feel like it, but don't think you got to do it because you have to.
No
one does.
Sean, I made $1,000 today, moving dirt. You know how it works. So.
Well, then you want to drop another couple hundred, asshole? Anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't do that shit. I'm kidding.
See, my wife is actually asking for 900. So.
Damn, rent time. Okay, with that said, guys, let me get out of here. Thank you, Sean Smith. Thank you again for the paintings during the stream. Definitely appreciate that, my friend. And hopefully, I'll be anxious to see the finished product of that painting in Discord.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sean. And hey, come back on. I'll give you more money, or not money, support. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm too sexy for this shit.
That was weird. That ended up weird.
I'm gonna end it on that one.
Too sexy for this shit. Too sexy for this shit. Yes, I'm too sexy.
That's a good way to leave that. Again, guys, thank you everyone in the chat for staying, hanging out, and chatting. I do appreciate it. Tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to stream. It'll be more geoengineering, weather modification based, less flat Earth. So please join me for that. And yeah, other than that, I'm getting the hell out. To everyone, goodbye.